My entitled neighbor kept treating my driveway like free parking, as he would constantly have his friends and family block my driveway and prevent me from parking on my own property. But after asking him dozens of times to please stop it, he simply did not get the message. So I decided to get some revenge by towing away his in-laws' SUV that was literally blocking my entire driveway, costing him about $300 and teaching him a lesson that he soon won't forget. Here's how it went down. To start things out, I live in a cul-de-sac and it's honestly nothing fancy. It's just your average neighborhood that you would find pretty much anywhere. My driveway fits 2 cars perfectly, namely mine and my husband's car. And for the most part, everyone here just minds their own business except for my neighbor, who for the sake of the story we'll call Jack. For whatever reason, he thinks my driveway is like extra parking for his family and friends. The first time it happened, I thought it was a mistake. His brother's car was in there, and he said it'll just take a second. Well, a week later, it was some friends of his dropping something off. I didn't love it, but I figured whatever, nothing worth making it awkward. But here's the thing, it just kept happening. I would come home from work completely wiped out as I work as a nurse, and I would find a random car blocking my driveway. One night, I literally had to park halfway down the street and then carry 5 bags of groceries because his buddy's truck was in my spot. Every single time I've said something, he would do that half smile and go, "Oh yeah, sorry, they'll be gone soon," like I'm the one being difficult instead of him. But eventually, I hit the final straw that broke my back. I get home late Friday night after a 12-hour shift. I'm still in my scrubs, I'm starving, and I've got takeout that's already getting cold in the passenger seat. And that's when I see it. Boom, the giant white SUV just parked dead center in my driveway, not even off to one side, like full on blocking me from even pulling in. I knock on the door and I get no answer, so I then decide to call Jack, and when he finally picks up, he has this super casual attitude where he says, "Oh yeah, that's my in-laws. They'll only be there for a couple of hours. Just park on the street, it's not a big deal." And when he said that, that was it for me. I decided right then and there I was calling a tow truck. And yes, I checked beforehand. Where I live, if someone blocks your private driveway, you are absolutely allowed to tow them immediately. The tow guy showed up in 20 minutes, and this stupid SUV was gone before I even finished half my fries. Well, about an hour later, I was alerted to furious pounding on my door. Jack was beet red and his in-laws are yelling in the background. And this guy's literally going off about how I didn't have to take it that far, but I just said to him, "Look, you told me it wasn't a big deal." So I treated it like it wasn't, and then I closed the door right in his face. They had to pay almost $300 just to get their car back. And funny enough, ever since then, my driveway has stayed crystal clear, which is exactly how it should have been from the very beginning. Oh dude, I love this so much. I've dealt with neighbors stealing my spots before when I've lived in like different condos or apartments, and unfortunately, in all the places I've lived, you can't tow someone like that, so like this is super cathartic. Oh my god. I am in love with the fact that you got back at Jack. Because seriously, this guy's a jerk. Not only did he not ask you first about using the driveway, but he also tried to be like, "Oh come on, it's not that big of a deal. They'll be gone in a few hours, don't worry about it." But guess what? It is a big deal. This is your driveway. This is not some public spot. Why can't his in-laws or friends park on the street? Why do they have to take up your spot in your driveway? So truly, as someone who has dealt with this exact same scenario, the way you handled this was beautiful and incredibly cathartic. Because I know if I was in your shoes, I would have loved to do the exact same thing. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I allowed my unemployed father to move in with me, and I'm now realizing this was the biggest mistake of my life. Because at this point, he's making my life a living nightmare, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I want to start off by saying that I've not lived with my dad since I was 14 years old. My mom and I left him, but then she passed away of cancer just a couple of years later when I was 17 years old. This devastated him, and he began to drink heavily. When my mother passed, I was the sole inheritor of the family home. I lived there for a couple of years, and as you can imagine, it was a pleasure to have the space to myself as a young adult. I tried to connect the dots with my dad, my only remaining family, but his drinking problem was too severe to have a civil relationship. In 2023, my dad became unemployed after he injured himself drunk on the job. He continued his bender until he fell and sustained head injuries alone by himself. In fact, I found him helpless on the floor. I took him to the hospital and he successfully detoxed. Now, when he was discharged, he asked if he could stay in my spare bedroom, saying that if he had to go back to his apartment alone, he would resume recklessly drinking. Now, at this point, I was peacefully living by myself. I never wanted to live with my dad ever again, but I had just come so close to losing him, my only family. I couldn't bear the thought, so he moved in, and he promised that he would get a new job very soon. But then the entitlement revealed itself. He does not treat me like an adult roommate, but rather like a teenager who he has authority over. He lectures me endlessly, attempts to micromanage my day, and acts like the head of the household. No regard for how I prefer to do things around my own home. He never stops parenting, as if I'm 15 years old again. While I pay for his food, his luxuries, expenses, and pretty much everything, he happily lives off of my savings. And I really think he sees it as the family money and in some way thinks it's his. Well, naturally, I began to frequently snap and show anger, but he doubled down, acting like I was a petulant, defiant teenager who needed to be reined in. If I speak to him about these problems, he tells me outright that I'm crazy, that I make problems up, and that I'm unstable. He even starts the strangest arguments and uses them as proof that I'm not rational. He doesn't have any friends or contacts. I am literally his only social outlet. He also doesn't leave the house except to go to the grocery store. He talks at length about anything and everything at high volumes, with little care for how the person responds. If he sees or hears me doing anything in the house, he will run over and ask as many questions as possible. He will carry on endlessly until you have to rudely cut him off, and then both people are upset. I no longer enjoy spending time in my own house. He drains every ounce of my energy just for himself. Now, obviously, I want him to leave, but he has nowhere else to go. He refuses to be self-sufficient, and I genuinely believe he will do something terrible to himself if I make him leave. And that kind of guilt will ruin me. He says it's this or I'm just totally on my own, and it's my choice between complete enmeshment and complete abandonment. I honestly regret the way this has turned out to be, and at this point, I seriously just don't know what to do. Yeah, this sounds like a nightmare. I'm sure in the moment where you found your dad knocked out on the floor, you had some compassion and you're like, okay, maybe I'll help him out this one time. But I'm willing to bet you definitely never expected this. Like seriously, you thought he was gonna actually pick his life up and get things together, but no, he's taking advantage of you and saying, well, if I don't have this, I'm on my own. And it's like, dude, maybe you should be on your own. You're clearly not doing anything with your life, and you're taking advantage of the original poster and their home. So hopefully this works out for you, because like this really does suck, and I can completely understand why you would say this is a mistake, because it really seems like it definitely was. Am I the jerk for immediately requesting a room change after my roommate told me her rules about who I can have in the apartment? Because right now I am devastated by the things she said to me, and at this point I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 21-year-old female getting my medical degree and living in a mature student housing complex. The setup is a 2-bedroom apartment with a shared kitchen and a bathroom. My roommate moved out over the summer, so I was reassigned a few weeks ago, and I moved into a new room with a new roommate who is a woman in her mid-20s from Persia. I've been here a few weeks now, but I've only really spoken to her a few times cordially. She's either out in class or working, or she's in a room as I am, with neither of us occupying any common areas, so we don't really cross paths that often. Well, this long weekend, my fiance, who I've dated for 7 years, finally came and visited me. He lives in a different part of the country, 5 hours away from me by car, since I moved here for school, and he wanted to keep his job while I'm studying since I will come back home when I'm done. Now, my ground rules for visitors are as follows. Stay in my room at all times unless going to the bathroom, and if we leave my room, which is usually only to leave the apartment and go out at all, they will always be directly accompanied by me. The university approves overnight guests for up to 4 nights a month, as long as they follow all of the rules. On the second day of his visit, my roommate took me aside and told me that she didn't expect my guests would be male, and she's uncomfortable with men being present in the apartment. Well, I explained that he was my fiance, so I promised that he was a safe man, but I also understood feeling scared about strange men, so I would ensure that he stayed only in my room and didn't interact with her at all. But she said it wasn't a matter of being concerned for safety or anything like that, but rather that she is uncomfortable with a man being present at all in the home, regardless of familiarity. She said that she's never had a roommate in all 4 years of living here who has ever had a male guest. Well, she then told me that I needed to send him home. And when she said this, I was quite taken aback. And of course I said no, I wouldn't be able to send him home, since he drove from 5 hours away to visit me for the weekend. She said to me, fine, he's able to stay until the weekend's over, but after this, no more male guests are to return to this apartment. I asked if this included family members like my dad, my brothers, or my male best friend of 15 years, and she said yes, this applies to all men. She is uncomfortable with any men being in the apartment at any time. So basically, if I'm gonna have a guest in the apartment, they must only be female. I tried to reason a bit more, but she said it is a hardline boundary for her that no males can ever be in the apartment. At this point, I was getting very flustered, so I exited the conversation and immediately have gotten to work with the university on requesting a room change. I do understand it may be a cultural misalignment between us, as she is from a country where men and women are usually much more segregated, but for me, as a woman who is close with a lot of men in her life, I feel this is a fundamental incompatibility between us, and out of respect for her boundary, I feel it's best if I just leave. I have been extremely stressed out since this conversation, as I am now just on a baseline level very uncomfortable with this dynamic. So seriously, am I overreacting here? Should I have tried to talk this out more before jumping immediately to asking for a room change? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, maybe this is just like the defiant person in me, but I know if I was in your shoes, I would be like, no, I can have whoever I want over here whenever I want. Especially if you know for a fact it's like, oh yeah, this is my fiance, or this is my dad or my brother. Like, dude, you can't police who can and can't be here. Especially if you're not breaking any university rules, like get a grip. But thankfully, I'm not in this situation because I'm pretty sure my roommate would be the one to move out instead of me. Personally, I don't think you did anything wrong and you probably shouldn't even have to move out. But in that same vein of thought, I don't blame you for being like, yeah, I gotta get out of here. There's obviously some kind of like cultural barrier here that you can't see eye to eye on. And honestly, that's completely fine. For me, the biggest red flag and the reason why I would be so annoyed is the way she tried to like literally be like, no, this is the way it is. Because last I checked, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but she definitely doesn't own that apartment. And in my opinion, if you're not breaking the university rules, then there's no issues here. So no, I don't think you're overreacting by being like, okay, I gotta get out of here. I don't want to deal with this. But also, you do not have to listen to her at all because you literally haven't done anything wrong. And if she doesn't like who you're bringing over, then that's honestly her problem to deal with and not yours. Am I the jerk for supposedly ruining my cousin's wedding after my ex-boyfriend's wife came up to me and started berating me, saying that my ex no longer cares about me? Because after realizing she was just trying to start a fight with me, I left just to avoid conflict. But my cousin is equating this to me ruining her wedding. And at this point, I'm honestly so frustrated that I just don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, I'm gonna try and keep it brief because I genuinely feel like I'm being gaslit by everyone, but also maybe I'm not seeing my own role in this situation. In university, I had a very brief sort of relationship with a guy on my course, and I ended the relationship because I felt like I needed to learn independence. I've never lived on my own, and my mom and dad coddled me and paid for my expenses, they cooked for me, they did my laundry, etc. He was looking to settle down, and I honestly just really wasn't. I wanted to learn to be on my own for a bit, and he wanted to marry someone that he could take care of. So we went our separate ways, finished university, got jobs, and just kind of moved on. Well, my cousin got married the other day, and this guy I was previously talking to attended with his wife, and she also attended our university and was on the same course. Now, I wasn't really fussed by seeing them. I mean, they've clearly moved on, and I'm loving life right now. I'm having that independence that I've always been wanting. Everything is really chill until his wife comes up to our table. She asked me why she didn't see me at graduation, and for context, I didn't attend our graduation ceremony because both of my grandmothers had passed away and it was their funeral. I didn't really care about missing graduation because I've got horrible social anxiety anyways, and the thought of being seen by that many people really freaked me out. She then asked about my career, and I told her that I'm in teaching now and I absolutely love it. And we were literally just exchanging small pleasantries, I think you get it. But she randomly veered the conversation in a much different direction. She then said to me, my husband doesn't care about you at all anymore. And I really wasn't bothered at all because over the few years since we were together, I started to see just how toxic he was. He was controlling and he wanted me to ask his permission before seeing my own friends. Now, I was not looking to start an argument at my cousin's wedding, so I just walked away from them and I sat at my other cousin's table. Now, I don't know how, but she actually found me again at some other point of the reception and it got really weird. She was saying things like, you are so jealous of us. You actually skipped graduation because you didn't want to see us together. But honestly, I didn't even know they were together. But when she said this, I didn't even bother to explain myself. It would have been pointless as she'd already made up her mind about me. Instead, I just nodded along as she ranted at me. But as you would expect, it started to take attention away from the wedding. At this point, I decided it would probably be best to go home, so I just gave my gifts and I left. But my cousin messaged me a few days later, angry at me for starting fights at the wedding. I then straight up told her I wasn't looking for any fights. That girl approached me every single time, but she told me that it was my fault for leading him on in the first place. I explained it was a long time ago. I was only 19 at the time, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life, let alone commit to marrying a guy. So am I being dumb or is this actually my fault? Did I ruin the wedding? What should I do? No, you didn't ruin the wedding. This is so dumb. The wife is clearly jealous of you and like afraid or intimidated by you, which is like the only reason she came up to you and said, you know, my husband doesn't care about you, which like good. He shouldn't care about me at all. He's married to you, lady. Like, what are you talking about? And it's honestly so stupid that she's trying to be like, oh, you're jealous of us. You skipped graduation because you can't stand us being together. Like, I don't know about you, but that is like some desperate energy and she really needs to check herself. So for your cousin to sit there and be like, you ruined my wedding. You're causing commotion. You're literally starting arguments. You led this guy on. Like, not only is your cousin an idiot, but also that is just blatantly untrue. You walked away every single time this moron tried to approach you, and you tried to keep quiet by literally saying nothing. You didn't even have an argument. This lady started all of this in some kind of like desperate plea to be like, we have a loving relationship. But it's like, do you have a good relationship? Because anyone who has a good relationship wouldn't be this desperate to go up to someone's ex and be like, we're so happy together. Stop being so jealous. Oh my God. So no, you're not the jerk. You didn't do anything wrong. And if your cousin really thinks you ruined their wedding, then honestly, they're an idiot and they have no idea what they're talking about. Am I the jerk for shouting at my mom for selling my things that she agreed I could store at her apartment for the time being? Because right now, somehow this is being twisted against me, and at this point, I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of context, I'm a 21-year-old female, and I've been moved out of my parents' house for a little over 2 years now. I rent this apartment a while away from their house, which they own, and is way bigger than my own place. Now, this was helpful when I realized after moving into my new place that I barely had any space for all my stuff. When speaking to my mom about this, she said I could use the house as a storage space, which was convenient as I could come by whenever I needed, so I agreed. But things started going wrong last Christmas. I came by to get some decorations I had stored there to use at my apartment, only to find out that my mom had sold them online. She said very cheerfully that she chose it because she didn't think it had any significance to me, and that I would not have minded if it was gone. And while I was bothered, I quickly just let it go. Then a few months later, I would stop by for some clothing I had stashed, only to then find them missing again. And this happened multiple times. Every time I asked about it, she said she had either sold it online or that she had let a friend borrow it. After a while of dealing with this, I grew pretty agitated. When it happened the last time regarding some very expensive shoes, I just blew up. I shouted at her for taking my belongings and selling them without my consent, all while she stood there and cried. Her response was that I had kept them in the house for so long that she felt it simply couldn't have been important to me, and that had she had known, she wouldn't have done it. She also said that it clearly didn't matter enough, as I chose to keep it in my parents' house, which was her property, and so it was hers to deal with. Now, in my rage, I didn't realize that she was padding around for her inhaler, as my mother has severe asthma, and she started coughing terribly. To this, I slammed my hand on the wall in anger, and I left only before telling my dad that she needed her inhaler. Well, now my brother, my dad, and some relatives, and even a few friends are saying that I overreacted, and that I'm an apathetic materialist who care more about my clothing than my mom's health and well-being. I feel like I had every right to be angry, but now I'm honestly questioning myself. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I seriously just don't know what to do. Dude, there is no way you're the jerk here. Your mom agreed to allow you to store your stuff at her place, not for her to rifle through it and slowly start to sell it off. Like, what's going on right now? How is this in any way, shape, or form being twisted against you? So no, you're not the jerk here. This is so dumb. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would find a storage unit and put all my stuff there, because clearly your mom can't be trusted with any of your property, as she's probably just gonna try and like sell it off in some kind of way. An entitled Karen is seething with rage after she feels I didn't park my car good enough in the spots we were occupying. But despite the fact that I got video evidence that she was the one parking over the line, I decided to do nothing to fix her dilemma, choosing instead to walk away, leaving her in a seething rage. Here's how I did it. Okay, so I was going to the grocery store and I see two spots available right next to each other. Now this was a score because this particular store doesn't have too many spaces that are close to the entrance, all due to the weird parking lot footprint. As I'm about to pull in, a woman coming from the other side wants to pull into one of the spots, so I just wave her on. It was no big deal because there were two spots, so after she pulls in, I pull into the other spot on the driver's side right next to her. Now I am pretty good at parking my car, but after I pull in, she gives me a very dirty look, and she then gestures to the door or the ground, I mean something like that, because I'm not really sure what she's doing. My assumption is that she thinks that there isn't much room for her to get out. Now since I was in a good mood, I back up and I move my car over just a little bit more, but despite that, I still am staying within the lines. But I still get the same reaction from the woman as before, but with an added exaggerated sigh. Not letting this grump ruin my day or dampen my sparkle, I decide to move the car over another few inches. When I get into the spot, not only did I get the dirty look and the sigh again, but this time she added an eye roll as well. Now I get enough of those from the teenagers in my life, and my sparkle is in danger of getting dampened at this point. So what am I to do in this situation? Well, I got out of my car to inspect the placement of the parking job. I'm pretty close to the car next to me on my driver's side, but there is a person sitting in the passenger seat that was apparently watching this interaction, so I figure they weren't planning on getting out anyways. When I look on the other side of my car where the grumpy woman was, her car was actually a few centimeters over the line, and she's also craning her head back to see what I'm doing. And at this point, I have a decision to make, so I make it quick. I get back into my car, and at this point, she is saying something probably not nice to me and gesturing her hands for me to speed up, I'm assuming. I tell her to calm down as best I can with hand gestures, and I pull my car back out a third time. This time, I move my car towards her car, so I am perfectly in the middle of my spot. Because guess what? This was never my fault in the first place. I get out, I take a picture of both of our cars and her license plate, and she winds her window down and rudely asks me where I think I'm going. The passenger in the other car next to me calls out to get my attention and says to me, "Are you going to answer me? You need to move your car." I then look at the passenger trying to get my attention, and he says to me, "Screw that. Some people just can't be pleased." I then look at this idiot and I say what he said, pointing to the passenger in the other car. I then proceeded to walk by him, and I was really happy as I walked into the store while she sat there like a giant angry turd seething with rage. Okay, I love this so much because that lady was 100% in the wrong. Like, it's bad enough that you had to get out of your car and like look for it and then readjust it 3 times, but the fact that this was all her fault, in my opinion, makes this even more enraging. Like, seriously, come on, lady, this is absolutely not the original poster's fault. You're parking outside the line and trying to act like, wow, you need to move over for me. When it's like, no, dude, you need to move over. You're being so obnoxious about it, it's so annoying. So good for you for putting that car exactly in the middle of your spot, because if anyone's gonna move their car, it absolutely is gonna be this Karen. An entitled man-child screams at me at the top of his lungs, all because he booked his room wrong at the hotel I worked at. I took just about as much as I could handle, and eventually I had to put him in his place. Here's what happened. I was working the 3 to 11 last week at the hotel I work at, as I normally do, and I was all by myself, as the managers had both gone home for the day. In walks a family who had a reservation booked through a website. I got them all checked in with no issues, and off they went. A few minutes later, they're back downstairs at the front desk, and the man is quite upset. He said that the room type was not what he booked and that it was too small. He was convinced he had booked the single king suite with a whole separate bedroom, but the room type on his reservation was actually just a regular single king room. No matter how much I attempted to explain it to this man, he was refusing to accept it. He proceeded to yell over me and insist that he booked it correctly and that there's no way his reservation was for a regular king room. He said I was accusing him of lying and kept demanding that I would move his room. It was pretty obvious that this man thought he could shout me down and intimidate me into giving him what he wanted because I'm a young woman who was working by myself. Eventually, I got sick of being cut off and screamed over, so I informed him that if he did not stop screaming over me, I would cancel his reservation and that he was welcome to find accommodations elsewhere. I was not rude, but I was firm and made it clear that I was not going to be treated that way. After that, he shut up pretty quickly and attempted to find some kind of proof in his email that he booked a 1-bedroom suite. And of course, he couldn't do it because he didn't. Eventually, he sulked away and made his wife do all of the talking. She was being overly sweet to me and said that she told her husband that he needed to leave me alone. She asked to book another room just to have more room for their kids. So I obliged, since she was able to speak to me like a human being. They stayed for 5 nights, and the man who screamed at me spent the rest of his stay avoiding me and walking quickly through the lobby. You better believe I gave him an extremely cheerful greeting every time I could catch him. Anyways, the family checked out, and I saw today that they left a review stating that I was very rude and inappropriate in front of her children. She also straight up lied and claimed that she checked in at 3 and there was no manager, but they actually checked in at around 7:30 p.m. So of course the managers had all gone home by that time. She also lied and said we did not clean their room when they requested service, when in reality, they actually declined service for their rooms when asked. I have no idea why some people are like this. I did have several other guests who witnessed that man's temper tantrum come up to me later on and tell me that I handled the situation extremely well. One woman even told me I inspired her daughters and made them feel empowered by standing up for myself as a young woman. So all in all, it was kind of worth it to me. What an absolute psychopath this guy guy was. He's screaming and crying because he got his reservation wrong. And you know what? People like this know exactly what they're doing. They are only yelling at you so they can try and get a better room. There might even be a chance that he booked this room wrong just so he could try and yell at the front desk so they would give him a bigger room, all for free. And if that's the case, man, that's just disgusting. Overall, the original poster handled this like a boss, and it is so refreshing to see someone stand up for themselves in the face of some entitled man-child. Am I the jerk for not getting my girlfriend a birthday present? My girlfriend and I have been dating for 3 years. Today, we got into a fight because she was upset that I've never bought her a birthday present or any kind of present, even though I told her I don't like buying gifts. She is mainly upset because she has bought me presents for almost every occasion, and even my birthday, which was recently. But I told her not to because I don't want to feel bad if I forget to buy her something. This made her really upset, and she asked why I would forget to buy her something. I just don't put a lot of importance on gifts for special occasions, and I probably would forget. I just don't know how to explain that I don't put a lot of importance on buying presents. Am I the jerk in this situation? So let me get this straight. You have been with your girlfriend for 3 years and you have not gotten her a single gift for any reason at all? That seems crazy to me. Sometimes, to be completely honest with you, when you're in a relationship, you do things to make the other person happy. And clearly, getting gifts of some kind to celebrate her birthday or Christmas or anything is very important to her. Like, why would you not clue into that and say, hey, maybe I should do this simply because she likes it? Because giving a gift to someone is not about you, it's about the person who is getting the gift. And to be honest, she's completely justified in being upset. Like, you legitimately don't get to decide that you don't have to buy a present for her on her birthday simply because you don't like buying gifts. It is her birthday. Of course you want to get her something. And it's very selfish to have the cop-out of saying, oh, I'd probably forget when it comes to getting a gift, because that's unacceptable. Like, there's no excuse for that, and it seems like you're just trying to skirt around the fact that you don't like giving gifts, which is fine. You cannot like giving gifts, but you have to do it anyways for those you care about, especially for your girlfriend who's expecting something on her birthday. Like, how sad is that? She probably got a present from just about everybody, except for the one person in her life that's supposed to love her the most, aka her boyfriend. So yeah, I think you need to do better than what you're doing currently, because this is just unacceptable in my opinion. So unfortunately, in this case, yep, you are definitely the jerk. My best friend's stepbrother left him alone in a strange city, and I legitimately could not be more shocked. So this took place a few weeks ago. I'm from Sweden, and in June, we celebrated midsummer. So my best friend and I, as well as some of our friends, decided to spend the weekend at his parents' summer house, located on an island outside a city about just an hour-and-a-half drive away. They graciously allowed us to be there by ourselves, as they had another party to go to. His stepbrother and his fiance wanted to join and bring some of their friends as well, and we thought, why not? The more the merrier, right? Anyway, overall we had a great weekend. The only annoying and reoccurring thing was the obvious lack of respect the stepbrother and his fiance showed towards my best friend or any of us in general. They kept acting like it was nice of them to let us tag along, when in fact it was the other way around. The day when most people, including me, were going home, the stepbrother offered to drive 2 trips with the boat so that everyone who was catching a train home could go that way and no one would have to take a ferry. But then, after the first trip on which all of his friends had gone, he didn't have the energy to fulfill his promise and take the rest. So my best friend had to do that. Then my friend, the stepbrother, and his fiance stayed behind another day to clean up. When going home, they all took the boat into the harbor and were seemingly, as they had previously agreed, all driving back home together. The stepbrother and the fiance had been allowed to borrow my best friend's parents' car to get there in the first place. Only when my friend was about to get into the car, he noticed that they had put all the luggage in the back seat instead of the trunk. And just when he was about to ask where he would fit, the fiance said, "Well, okay, thanks for this weekend." My friend asked what she meant, and then she replied, "It would be great if you could just get the train home. We have no room for you." Then they got in the car and just left. The next train home didn't leave for 5 hours. My best friend's mom and stepdad were livid when they found out that they didn't take him with them, especially when it wasn't even their car in the first place, especially when he had been nice and let them come along in the first place. They tried to say that the car was lent to them after all, and not to him, and that they had a lot of luggage, and that he didn't live close to them anyways, which is absolute BS. I don't understand how you could treat your sibling this way. And before anyone says anything, they were 5 and 6 years old when their parents got together, and they are now 26 and 27. So they have grown grown up together. I could never leave my sister in another city. Even the thought of it is absurd. I really just don't understand how you could be that entitled. That is pretty crazy. I can't imagine being 5 hours away from getting home and being asked to take a train ride home all because my sibling is being selfish. I mean, these are fully grown adults. You would expect some semblance of common sense, but that's a lesson learned. Definitely next time you go on a trip, do not bring your stepbrother and the fiance along with you, because chances are you're just going to get left behind and they're going to do things most likely at your expense. My boyfriend is delusional about how much cleaning he does and how little I do, and it's honestly driving me nuts. My boyfriend and I are both in our mid-20s and have been together for 2 years. When we first started living together, he had no housework at all. We talked about it, and now he does a decent amount. The main thing he does is straightening up, like collecting all the piles of whatever and putting them in neat piles of rows. He does not actually put them away where they go. This is important for later. Overall, it would be hard to say what the exact breakdown is, but there are days or weeks when he does more than I do. The thing is, he has been acting like the biggest martyr since he started doing this. He sat me down for a very serious conversation and said that I do not do enough to express my gratitude for what he does. I sometimes verbally acknowledge what he does, saying stuff like, "Wow, the place looks great, thanks for cleaning up." But he said he still does not feel very appreciated. I am just like in another dimension with rage, because for the longest time, he did literally nothing, and now he continues to have no concept of how much work I actually do around the house. He still has never once in his entire life folded a piece of laundry or cleaned a toilet. Yesterday, we got together with some friends, and he was complaining to his friend when he thought that I was out of earshot. He was saying how difficult it is for him to live with someone who is so messy and disorganized. I am someone who has color-coded file drawers and meal preps for every meal. In my opinion, I do the vast majority of the actual housework, even though he does reduce the overall mess on a day-to-day basis. On the one hand, I feel so angry and even taken advantage of, and hearing this conversation with his friend felt like the last straw. But on the other hand, he does a lot more than he used to, so maybe I need to just get a sense of humor about how delusional he is and appreciate what he does. Should I talk to him? And if so, what do I say? I mean, it sounds like your boyfriend's being silly, to be completely honest. Like, why should he get gold stars for the stuff that he does on a daily basis? Like, these are household chores. You're an adult. You have to do them. And for him to go around and act like, "Oh man, I do so much work and you're doing nothing. You're so disorganized." That's really comical. I don't know if he's trying to joke around, maybe try and see if there's some kind of humor in what he's saying. But if he's being actually serious and he's actually meaning what he's saying, then he's being very childish. And hey, maybe he does feel underappreciated. Maybe the solution is just to be like, "Oh, good job, buddy." And maybe that'll satisfy some weird demand he has for praise. But then again, who wants to put up with that? So I don't know if that's what you want to go about doing. And maybe you're right. Maybe this literally is the first time he's ever done housework, and he was expecting a parade and fireworks to go off, when in reality, it's just housework and it's one of those things he should have been doing in the first place. What is concerning is that he's having this as a legitimate conversation with his friends, which is definitely not good. And I think maybe sitting him down and having a serious talk about all of this and how it makes you feel when he talks about you behind your back would be very valuable for your relationship moving forward. My boyfriend is constantly embarrassing me and putting me down. Should I break up with him? So my boyfriend and I have been dating for approximately 3 months now. While I understand that it's early, there's honestly been a lot of things about him that have made me question being in a relationship with him. However, I can't tell if I'm asking for too much here or whether these are valid issues. For one, he lies constantly, although these are about petty things. When we first met, he told me how his dad was a mafia boss and how much money his family comes from, yet he continuously wears the same outfits on repeat every day. I mean, I remember him wearing the same pair of jeans for like 3 weeks straight, not to mention almost all his clothes have stains on them somewhere. I remember asking him to dress fancy for my birthday lunch, and so he wore the same ripped up jeans and an old sweater. He also does not care about putting in any effort in front of my friends. The first time we all went out together to a museum, he had grease stains. I'm someone who's always put together. I've also asked for flowers so many times and didn't even get them on my birthday. He ended up delivering a flower teddy bear to me a day late and blamed it on the florist company, but really, I think it was just his lack of planning. He's never put any effort into school. He skips classes daily and is taking a gap year next year. In contrast, I'm taking my academics seriously. Honestly, Honestly, there's just so many empty promises with my boyfriend, such as him saying that he'll pay for my nails and such. He knows gift giving is my love language and he promised to live up to that. Plus, if you're bragging about family owning hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'd assume you'd be fine with this, right? It's only nails. He told me to pay first and that he would e-transfer me back. Well, guess what? It's been 3 weeks and the reason behind this delay is because he just hasn't gotten paid in time. And just as an extra note, he constantly indirectly flexes everything he owns and does. And these are just one of many things that he does all the time. Now, you are probably wondering why I'm even with him in the first place, right? Well, he constantly shows me love through always being there for me when he texts me, picks me up, and drives me far places. He does this all just to make me happy. Also, this is my first serious relationship, and I've moved to a different country for 2 months, and he is honestly the only one I really talk to. So it'll be hard to leave him when he's really the only one that I ever really spend any hours in the day with. He's also forgiven me when I vented things to my friends, and it came back to him. So I was thinking he must really love me for that. They ended up telling me I was unappreciative of him and how much he loves me, and that I was in the wrong. That's why I'm just so confused about this whole situation. What should I do? If you've only been with this person for 3 months and you're feeling like you kind of want to break up with them, then I think that's something you probably really want to give some solid thought to. There's no reason for you to settle for some kind of bad relationship, especially with someone who's going to lie about really stupid petty stuff. And I totally understand that you don't want to be alone, but guess what? You can make new friends. The original poster, by the way, is only 18 years old. And trust me when I say this, you have so much time left to find a relationship that you can be confidently happy with and not just settle for some guy just because he makes you happy and he drives you around and he occasionally gets you stuff that you like. If he's doing this other stuff that's really not making you feel comfortable or in some ways is kind of breaking your heart, then let that be a sign that maybe you might want to start looking at if you even want to be with this guy in the first place. My girlfriend is fighting with a mutual friend of mine and thinks that I can't be friends with her either, and I'm honestly not sure what to do now. Currently, my girlfriend and one of our mutual friends by the name of Sarah, that's not her real name, are not on good terms with each other. It's basically just girl drama. My girlfriend basically feels like Sarah never defends her from a certain person who is always talking garbage about my girlfriend. Personally, I think they'll get over it eventually. Over the past few years, Sarah and I have also become close friends with each other. We hang out pretty often and game together. Sarah has reached out to me and said that she knows things aren't great with her and my girlfriend, but that she really values my friendship and hopes that at least we can remain friends, regardless of how things with them turn out. Personally, I agree entirely, but this makes my girlfriend incredibly mad. She says it tells everyone, including her, that I am on Sarah's side by continuing to hang out with her. I think she's wrong, and I'm allowed to be friends with people she doesn't get along with. How do I make it clear to my girlfriend that because I'm remaining friends with Sarah doesn't mean that I don't support her? How can I make her feel reassured without cutting ties with Sarah? I think you're missing it completely what you should be doing here, and in my opinion, you should be taking your girlfriend's side. The fact that Sarah is inserting herself into your life at the expense of your girlfriend, in my opinion, seems super planned. Like if I had a beef with someone and I wanted to get back at them, I would try to wedge myself between them as well as their significant other to try and add some more misery in their life. And personally, it sounds like Sarah in this situation is trying to do just that. By pushing to try and be friends with you, it is in a roundabout way taking a shot at your girlfriend. And I think you need to wake up and see that that's exactly what's happening. And is your girlfriend correct in assuming that, hey, this means that you're not on her side? In my opinion, yeah, absolutely. You are showing to her that you would rather spend time with Sarah than stand by your girlfriend and say, get lost. If I was in your shoes and someone was disrespecting my girlfriend as well as talking trash about her, I would kick them to the curb immediately. They would have no chance to try and be my friend again. If I really loved my girlfriend, I would be on her side. This is all just some elaborate power play, and you are literally just a pawn in this girl's scheme. And the sooner you realize it, the sooner you'll be able to keep your relationship with your girlfriend. Because let's look at it from the other perspective. How would you feel if a guy you disliked and had some kind of dispute with suddenly messaged your girlfriend and said, hey, let's remain friends regardless of what happens between you and your boyfriend? I'd be pretty pissed off and I'd say, hey, I need you to stop talking to him. So yeah, long story short, your girlfriend's right, and if you were wise about this, you would take her advice and cut this chick off, because she legitimately just wants to ruin the relationship that you have with your girlfriend. And if you're not careful, you're about to be collateral damage. I made my boyfriend choose between me and his best friend, and he didn't choose me, and now I'm not sure how to get him back. It was honestly a stupid decision, but try to understand me. They have known each other since since he was 16, and they get along really well together. I've only known him for about 2 years, not even that. We immediately went out together a few months after our first meeting. When it comes to his friend, I didn't know her. I even thought I was his best friend. Then one day his friends talked about her. They are their friends in common. So even if they don't show it, I know they would have preferred to see him be with her, despite the fact that they don't say it to my face or show it. Apart from that, everything was fine between us, until I learned from him that he had been in love with her, but that she preferred that they remain friends even if they flirted together. Then he reassured me that he no longer felt anything. But it hurt me to know that this girl's decisions played into our meeting, because it was at the time that he was heartbroken, and the friend we had in common forced him to ask me out because he knew that I liked him. He also had a crush on me, but I know that he liked this girl even more. I met her, by the way, and she's really nice. She's even friends with my older sister, but I don't really like her. I feel like the other women when she's there. They have the same taste in music. She made him discover so many things. He cares so much about her, even when I'm there. I suspected them of having a relationship, and I got angry one day, and I blocked him for a few weeks, even when he swore to me that there was nothing between them. I made him choose between me and her when I finally agreed to see him, and he told me he couldn't do that to her. He left me now, and I regret it a lot. What do I do to get him back? I'm honestly not sure what you can do in this situation, because as the saying goes, the toothpaste is already out of the tube, and getting that back in is probably not gonna happen. I mean, you made him choose between you, someone he just met about 2 years ago, compared to someone who he's known most of his life. Like, this other girl is his best friend. Like, why would you provide some kind of ultimatum when you didn't need to do that? That's just childish, and that's really inappropriate. It doesn't matter, in my opinion, if you have any kind of jealousy towards this girl. If they really are just friends, as your boyfriend told you, then there's no reason for you to get defensive and somehow think, oh no, but they're definitely cheating. That's really, really toxic, and in my opinion, I think you kind of got what was coming to you. So next time, in my opinion, don't give an ultimatum to your significant other, all because he has a female best friend who you don't like that he's spending time with. 2 entitled parents try to bully my brother-in-law into giving them his inheritance, and I could not be more shocked by how childish they acted. For some background information, my husband's parents have been terrible people for a lot of reasons. My husband has been living on his own since he was 17 years old. His parents kicked him out of the house because his older brother didn't break down moving boxes or some other petty crap like that. The entitled parents just decided they were done being parents and kicked both of their boys out of their house. We've been together for 26 years, so I have personally seen these garbage parents in action for a long time. My husband's brother, though, was permitted to live with them intermittently after the initial boot. My husband never asked them for anything ever again, and we are extremely low contact with them. My husband's grandparents both passed away last year, within days of each other due to old age. They were really nice grandparents and a great set of role models to our family. After they passed away, we were given some household items and didn't expect anything from the estate. Unbeknownst to us, there was a portion left to each of the adult grandchildren. The aunt in charge of the estate recently sent a letter telling my husband how proud Grandpa was of him, as well as a check for $5,000. This was a really nice gift. My husband has depression issues stemming from his childhood, so having something tangible for him to hold on to, as well as to read from his grandfather, was so nice. Because we're doing well, we're able to just deposit the check into our savings. This estate planner said that the grandparents would be very happy that we are saving it. My husband's brother struggled through his young adulthood and has some codependency issues with his entitled parents. He's been living away from the entitled parents for several years now and has overcome some significant problems. He bought a house recently and also said he was planning on putting money into his savings. The entitled parents caught wind that the boys were given some money, and so they called my husband's brother, and they were completely belligerent with him. They claimed that he owed them somewhere between $2,000 to $5,000, but that they would settle for just $1,000. Now, my husband's brother is doing much better than he ever has been. I'm super proud of him. He was able to put his inheritance into his savings, but he literally just emptied out his savings account to buy his house. His car needs work, his wife is disabled, and he has 4 kids. He needs an emergency cushion, but his parents kept bullying him and eventually pushed him into agreeing to send them $1,000. And while he hasn't sent the money to them yet, he made payment arrangements to start the next pay period. period. 10 payments of $100. As a side note, this money that my husband's brother supposedly owes to his parents was all from when they lived together over 6 years ago. He paid the full amount of rent and utilities at the time, but his parents were supposed to pay for food and help with babysitting. Full disclosure, the whole group is dysfunctional together. My husband calls his brother just to talk to him, and he tells my husband exactly what his parents did. My husband's brother is so stressed out, and he doesn't want to give his parents any money, but feels like he has to. He also says that he owes us some money because we paid his light bill a few months ago, but we were not even stressing about the light bill money at all, and haven't even asked for any kind of repayment. My husband tells his brother under no terms should he send that money to his parents. The grandparents sent the money to the grandkids through the estate planner. We assume they did it specifically because if they sent it through these terrible parents, it would never come our way. My husband's brother is nervous because he's on shaky ground with his parents. But my husband said, who cares? They're terrible parents and you're better off without them. He agrees and says that he won't send them the money. My husband said that if the parents call again and ask for money, let them know that the estate planner will be notified of their attempts to hustle them out of money. And also, for the record, these terrible parents were also given an inheritance, but they borrowed money from the grandparents several times over the years. And each time they borrowed money, the grandparents stated that this money comes from their future portion of the estate. I don't know what was left for the entitled parents, especially after all that borrowing, and honestly, we don't really care. So hopefully my husband's parents don't get any money from my brother-in-law, as he deserves that money and he should be saving it. That's a really terrible story, especially when that money was not meant for those parents at all. How gross and disgusting do you have to be to still try and sink your talons in your kids just to shake them down for money? And they're doing it right. I would also 100% let the estate planner know exactly what they're doing, because it's unethical and it's just rude. And it's really ridiculous that it was 6 years ago that he lived with his parents, and they're still holding a grudge about money that he owes. I get that you have to pay it, but it seems like a very convenient time to start demanding money, especially when they first give the range of $2,000 to $5,000 and then say, oh, but we'll only take $1,000. I bet you he only owes them maybe $300 at most. So yeah, hopefully these parents don't get any of this money, and hopefully this guy goes no contact with his parents, because based on what we're hearing, these people absolutely suck. I am at a breaking point with my fiance's financial irresponsibility, and I simply don't know what to do. When I first met my fiance 6 years ago, she was literally so buried in debt that her wages were being garnished and she was facing bankruptcy. I helped her carve her way out by footing the majority of the bills and asking that she cut her cards up and never use them again. I thought we were beyond this ordeal, but today I had a conversation with her that made my head almost explode. We rarely discuss finances because it's frequently a source of tension in the relationship. I honestly thought she was doing better because I confirmed that she was debt-free as of a year ago. Somehow within that short time span, she managed to max out 2 credit cards and accumulate roughly $12,000 of high-interest credit card debt that she now has to struggle with on top of her student loans. I'm furious and have no idea where to go from here. I own a house and she pays for a portion of the mortgage, so I suggested that maybe she can forego those payments to make progress on her debt. This is probably a stupid idea that will not solve her spending problem, but it's worth a try. Ludicrously enough, this conversation was spawned by her requesting to take a vacation that we simply cannot afford. I do all right financially, and I make about 6 figures, but in principle, I find this behavior absolutely appalling. I think of everything we could have done with the money that she just throws away on credit card interest payments, and I am fixated on the idea that we as a couple will never hit our financial goals due to her extreme mismanagement of her finances. I could be going on trips or setting up investments for us, but once again, I am needing to bail her out. Is there any hope that she's capable of changing? What should I do? My first question is, what on earth is she buying that's making her max out so many credit cards? Like, please tell me this isn't some kind of stereotype where some lady's just going shopping. I would almost be curious to see where she's actually using these credit cards to try and see if you can maybe put restrictions on where she can and cannot shop. Not necessarily anything that you would do personally, but maybe setting up like ground rules like, okay, if we go to this store or this website, we can't use the credit cards. And honestly, you're getting ready to marry this lady. You absolutely need to discuss finances with her. If you honestly can't discuss finances today, getting married isn't going to help anything. Being financially responsible is a pretty big deal when you're legally bound to somebody else. And it doesn't sound like she totally understands that. I think maybe she thinks that you're just going to bail her out no matter what, obviously because you love her, but to a certain degree, it kind of seems like she's using using you a little bit, which in this case isn't totally irrational in my opinion. You are getting married after all, so finances kind of become a thing between the both of you. But in my opinion, I think it's time to set up some serious ground rules between the both of you. You can't be expected to bail her out every single time just because she is making some terrible decisions. That's honestly not fair for either of you. So hopefully you're both able to find a solution to this, and that she's able to see that you can't keep maxing out credit cards and expect everything to be happy in your home. I got tipped 86 cents as a server. Now you might be thinking, oh no, that's really bad. Yeah, I would have thought so too, but I want to share why I'm not mad that I only got an 86-cent tip. I only was scheduled one day this week, and when I went in for my shift, I got a table fairly quickly. It was just a one-top with a little older lady. She kind of reminded me of the iguana assistant from the movie Sing, but not in a bad way. She was one of the sweetest customers I've had in such a long time. Very polite, wasn't rude at all, and was really nice to me in general. Now, my restaurant uses the Presto systems to pay. If you don't know what that is, basically it's a table tablet thing that your table pays on. They can also play games and other stuff too. Basically, these things are a pain in the butt, especially for the older crowd. I don't know why they thought this customer base was the best for upgraded payment systems, but whatever. So the lady pays and she tells me she accidentally forgot to tip, but she wanted to tip me because she really enjoyed my service. Her bill came out to about $50. Now, I was going to find a manager to pull back her receipt, but when I walked in the office, the bartender was filling out an incident report. So I backed out slowly and went back to the lady. Also, I couldn't have printed the receipt to sign either because there's no option for that after it's printed after using the Presto machines. I just figured I would ring in something cheap and she could leave a tip on that. So that's what I did. I rang in something that was about $3, she paid for it and said she'd leave 20%. I didn't think about it until I looked at the notification for how much I got tipped. It was only 86 cents. And honestly, I just kind of laughed and I wasn't even upset about it at all. The lady really did try to tip me 20% of her original bill, but it was just a weird situation. It really was the thought that counted, to be honest though. Honestly, if it was any other table, I probably would have been very upset. But you know what? Accidents happen. That's a really cute story because at least this lady did try to say, hey, I want to leave you a good tip. And it's just a shame that it only came out of the $3 purchase instead of the $50 one. Hopefully next time those machines get worked out and that kind of mistake won't happen again. I took a secret trip to buy an engagement ring, and now my girlfriend thinks I'm cheating. I've been planning on proposing to my partner for a long time now. I've got this big surprise trip planned, and I've kept it on the down low perfectly so far. That is, up until now. The last thing I needed to do was buy an engagement ring. So I went to 2 different cities to browse engagement rings, and obviously while keeping it a secret from her. Google Maps on my phone was logged into her Google account, and little did I know it tracks your every move. And you can look at your past trips as well. She just so happened to be looking at a recent journey that she did and saw that someone had obviously been to these places and asked me about it. I am a terrible liar. So I said I did go there, but I can't tell her why. And now she thinks I've seen another girl. Google Maps has officially screwed me over. What do I do? This is definitely a pickle because it's one of those where you really can't tell her what you were doing at those specific locations. And it really sucks because you can't go into more detail without giving away the surprise. It's one of those things where you're stuck between a rock and a hard place and it's like, oh no, what do I do? Obviously, you don't want your girlfriend to think that you're cheating on her when in reality, you're setting things up to do the exact opposite and marry her. So I think if anything, you could probably just say, hey, I didn't want to ruin the surprise, but I'm getting you a present of some kind. You're not lying by any stretch of the imagination, so you really might be able to get away with saying this without her assuming the worst. There's also the distinct possibility that based on where you went on Google Maps, she might be able to figure out that you went shopping at specific places. And if you went to like a jewelry place where they're selling rings, then I can completely understand where she's coming from, where she's thinking, oh no, he's cheating on me. Hopefully though, she comes to her senses as soon as you propose to her and things are able to go swimmingly and wonderful between the two of you. My husband is moving out on me in my time of need, and I honestly don't know what to do about it. I'm a 41-year-old female and my husband is 37. We met 10 years ago and we've been married half that time. He has been crashing at his family's house for about a year. He declared us as separated with no input from me. For background, he has never given sincere apologies and has always been hugely resistant to compromise. We endured a string of major tragedies in our lives right after getting married and big financial and logistical strains involving insurance as well as other things. I sacrificed myself in ways that raised a lot of eyebrows to help his family. For me, I have been unable to find work due to into a blacklisting retaliation situation. I should be a highly paid professional, but I have been shut out. This happened early in the pandemic, and I've struggled with finding a lawyer because of how complex this case is. Also, around that time, I was diagnosed with CPTSD from the effects of a severe childhood trauma and multiple workplace traumas. The work situation is truly horrifying and a huge chicken or egg problem that no one seems to be able to solve. I arrived back from the long-distance retaliation job and moved back into our tiny little place with my stuff. He had even thrown some of my stuff in our storage unit without really asking me. He moved out because when I came back during the pandemic, he got mad that there were too many DVDs in the TV cabinet, while also asking me to get rid of some of my clothes and makeup, as well as some of my books on the bookshelf because he needs the open space. It was a lot of small, petty things just like that he would request that were just really nasty. And that's exactly what he was. Nasty and condescending, constantly yelling. And honestly, I thought you were supposed to compromise in a marriage. But if I then decide, okay, let's go through the fridge, for example, and clean it out, he would then go, oh, I don't want that sauce thrown away, and then he would storm out if it's gone. He has broken things in the apartment just because he was in a fit of rage. I have struggled with avoidance and discouragement around difficult tasks like begging for jobs and completing back taxes. I have asked for his help in the way that I actually can do them, and he did a little bit in the past, but complained loudly about how much it sucked. But I mean, it's taxes, what do you expect? And honestly, that took hours of begging. Before that, he would just buy fancy file boxes and throw them in the middle of the floor and shame me. He also has a history of not filing his taxes before we met, so there is definitely some projection going on there. So every time we talk, after about 5 minutes, he starts shaming me and saying, "This is who you are," despite the fact that I have been actively trying to heal with trauma therapy. I tried to ask him to kindly explain what his needs were, room by room, but he just keeps saying, "Oh, you can't do it." Once he threw away my bedroom TV after I was crying with him not to throw it away. In fact, he would throw away a lot of my things that I enjoyed under the guise of, "Oh, I'm just recycling." There are a plethora of examples that come just from this alone. I personally believe that he fits the covert narcissist stuff on the internet. Perfect, humble employee. He's a servant-like person when it comes to his friends, only has friends from high school, but he ends up being a totally different person at home. He is also incredibly sensitive. He screams if there's some kind of background noise while he's driving, or if there's any kind of perfume while he's driving. He has horrible road rage, and he just freaks out over the smallest things. For a year, he has threatened to get a lawyer and get a divorce, but hasn't done it. He just goes to work, goes to his parents' house, and watches TV and eats. His family hasn't checked in with me at all. It's like they don't even care that I've been left alone. His family never discusses issues. They just talk about politics all the time instead of discussing family stuff. It's very superficial. Now he is condescending and refusing to help me with rent. I am not capable of handling a move right now due to multiple stressors in my life. What should I do next? I do think he is dealing with some form of mental illness, but when I even suggest that I say that, he freaks out saying, "How dare you suggest I have a mental illness? I'm me and this is who I am. You are the problem." I really would like my husband to go to therapy, grow up, and learn to compromise, but I'm not sure what to do. It does not sound like this is a healthy relationship in the slightest. And based on what you've described, this guy is not making improvement or in any way, shape, or form showing that he cares about you. I mean, you have both been separated for a year, and if you really think he's going to be coming back, then I think you're joking. Like, this marriage, in my opinion, just from the outside looking in, it sounds like it's done. Either way, I really hope you find the relief that you're looking for, and hopefully your marriage will work out for the best if your husband is willing, but based on what you're describing, I just don't see that happening. Should I show my ex the evidence I have that proves that she cheated on me so that she'll stop denying it? My ex and I broke up about 2 months ago. We dated for about 5 years and lived together for 3. We had a pretty good relationship right up until the end. Ever since we broke up though, she has been treating me as if I'm the worst person on the planet, despite me assisting her with bills, being kind, and beyond understanding. It's as if all of the great times that we had are non-existent to her. Well, as it turns out, she started dating her boss a week before we broke up. Once I saw this, I did some digging and found out that she had been cheating on me with her boss for a few months before we ended up breaking up. She adamantly denies it, but I have several pieces of evidence that practically proves that she was, at the very least, emotionally cheating on me with her boss. I'm so tired of her denying this that I just want to show her the piece of evidence I have to show her that I know that she betrayed my trust and betrayed our relationship. Should I show her the piece of evidence I have against her that proves once and for all that yes, she did cheat on me? all so that she can stop denying it and accept that she did this? Or should I just let her forever wonder what I have that proves that she cheated? What should I do? If you've already broken up with her, I don't know if there's much else you can do. I know you're probably very upset with this situation, and obviously it's still raw. Like, I'd be pretty upset too if my girlfriend cheated on me and I had concrete evidence that they were absolutely denying. That would drive me crazy personally. So I totally understand where you're coming from there. I think another thing you need to remember is that she does not care about you. She's literally not thinking about your situation ever. She moved on instantly, it sounds like. You spent like 5 years together and lived together for 3. And if she really did cheat on you several months before you guys broke up, then honestly, she checked out a long time ago. It seems like you really want to share this information with her and show this evidence as some way of proving her wrong, but it honestly begs the question, is this lady even worth it? Like, she doesn't care about you and she's not going to feel guilty about this situation. And I don't think anything you can or would do would make her feel guilty about the way she betrayed you. I think your best bet is just to focus on yourself and break contact if that's possible. It is literally doing nothing for you as well as your own well-being by holding on to this and trying to have some kind of revenge, if you will, which I don't think that's what you're trying to do, obviously, but I do see your perspective of being incredibly hurt and trying to prove once and for all, hey, you broke us up, not me. So I wish you the best of luck with whatever you decide to do, and hopefully you're able to get away from this lady who ruined your relationship, because you can honestly do so much better than her. I did another woman's makeup and got scammed out of them paying me, and when I tried to get the money from them later, they threatened to call the police. Before COVID, I was a makeup artist that did looks for events ranging from prom to weddings. I still do makeup for myself regularly, but nowadays I rarely do event makeup for others. I still do take requests, but I need plenty of notice as my work schedule has been really wonky lately. Well, 3 years ago, a mutual friend requested that I do her prom makeup. Since I was so new, I wasn't charging a lot. It truly was a hobby, and I did make money on it. I told her, okay, that'll be $25. She agreed, but with some hesitation. I did not require a down payment before the appointment, as I had no issues before. The day of, her mom told me, "We had bills to pay. We'll get you next week." I understood and left it at that. I honestly should not have been so trusting, but I had never been scammed before. It didn't seem possible. A week passed by, and I sent a reminder that I still needed payment from them, and her mother went off on me, told me to stop harassing them, and that real people have real problems, and not everyone can afford to get their makeup done. She then mentioned calling the police if I tried nagging her again. Eventually, I just dropped it, because in the grand scheme of things, $25 just wasn't worth the fight. Months pass by, and October hits. I was in between jobs, and this girl hits me up again to do her makeup for homecoming. I tell her I'll do it, but I double the cost and ask for $20 down payment, non-refundable. She agreed, and I thought, okay, at least if she cancels, I have this. The time approaches when I'm supposed to leave my house, and I message her to verify. And lo and behold, she had booked someone else and didn't tell me until I asked 30 minutes before our appointment. I was disappointed, but honestly, not surprised. I decided that was it, and I was never going to work with her ever again. She then had the audacity to tell everyone I was threatening her family, and I was pressing charges. I haven't heard from her in over 2 years now, but I did hear through the grapevine that she wanted my services again. Well, as you can guess, that is absolutely not going to happen. That is such a terrible feeling to have somebody completely play you like that, where you provide some kind of service for them, they say they're going to pay you later, and then they never pay you. Like, that's such a toxic thing to do. And that is honestly why people have down payments ahead of time, so they can be like, okay, if you don't do it, I still get something out of this. Because I'm sure that people scam people like this all the time, so it's better to get something out of your time than nothing. And to be honest, I'm really surprised that this original poster even agreed to have a second time with this lady. If I was her, I would have let the first time be a solid sign of what the second time's going to be like. And lo and behold, it did end up being like that. But if anything, at least you got $20 out of it, and you only lost $5 overall, which in the grand scheme of this situation is not too bad. At least the $5 can be some kind of tax towards your own wisdom, knowing that you will never let anybody take advantage of you like that ever again. My entitled mother-in-law didn't want to quarantine and ended up giving my husband COVID. I need to vent. My mother-in-law fell sick with COVID last week. My husband, kids, and I were on vacation in a rental home. My mother-in-law and father-in-law were supposed to join us on Friday and take over the house for the next week. We were planning to go home on Saturday night. After testing positive, my mother-in-law called us and said she wouldn't be coming and that my sister-in-law would be coming instead. So we make arrangements with my sister-in-law and enjoy the rest of our stay. She would be coming on Monday, so the house would be empty on Sunday. On Friday night, after our kids went to bed, my mother-in-law called my husband to tell him she changed her mind and that she and my father-in-law were on their way and would be arriving in an hour. She didn't want the house to be empty over the weekend because that would be a waste of money, so she decided to come anyway. She was supposed to be quarantined until Monday. I had COVID 3 weeks ago. My kids, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and my husband did not. Of course, we were not happy with her coming. We figured we couldn't ask my parents-in-law to leave, given the fact that, strictly speaking, they were the ones renting the home for the weekend and the week to come. So we decided to cut our trip short and go home Saturday early in the morning. We demanded her to wear a mask in the house and to stay away from the kids. She was reluctant at first, and she absolutely did not stay away from the kids. And to say I was furious would be an understatement. We left the first thing in the morning. Well, my husband tested positive tonight. We are off work for 2 more weeks, and thanks to my irresponsible mother-in-law, my kids will probably get ill and the rest of our vacation will be ruined. And honestly, I could not be more angry. How selfish can you possibly be? You test positive for COVID, you're told, hey, quarantine and stay away from my family, only to then turn around and be like, we're coming anyways. Like, does she not care about the family members that they're going to be seeing? Obviously not, otherwise they would have stayed home and they would have worn a mask. And how do you disobey the parents' orders to say, hey, stay away from my kids? Do they want these kids to get sick and possibly get hurt? Like, what is wrong with these people? It's moments like this where you really need to stop and think about other people for once. It's incredibly inappropriate to just say, hey, I'm gonna go over to this house and get everybody sick, because that's exactly what they did. And you can almost guarantee that if the husband tested positive for COVID, those kids are surely gonna test positive as well. And that in and of itself is going to be miserable for everybody in that home, because when kids get sick, it is a tragedy. They can't shake it off and have an easy time like adults would most of the time. When a kid gets sick, they don't know how to communicate about it and are generally unable to just deal with it and function normally. So I really feel bad for this family. Hopefully those kids don't get COVID, and hopefully the husband's able to recover fast, and that it's just mild symptoms and nothing serious. It baffles me how people forget that COVID is still dangerous to some people. There's still some people out there that, regardless of vaccination status, can still get really sick from this. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully they're able to recover quickly, and next time you can bet for sure that this family will probably not want to have anything to do with these entitled in-laws who clearly only think about themselves. After 5 years, my girlfriend still hasn't gotten her life together, and honestly at this point, I feel trapped. How long can you be supportive of someone that just never figures it out and ultimately becomes a dependent? A little background. I'm a 36-year-old male, and I've been working in the arts for the last 10 years, first as a freelancer and then full-time for a successful artist. I met my girlfriend, who's 35 years old, 5 years ago on a job while I was still freelancing, and at the time she was too. She was working in Department X, but only as a side hustle, so she could eventually end up in Department Y. As lots of people in the arts know, freelancing and job insecurity is basically a way of life. So out of the gate, I figure she was just struggling in the same way I was, or any of my friends were. But ultimately, her situation was different. She had been dabbling in half a dozen other careers and jobs over the years, and none of them worked out. Between insecurities around her dyslexia and pain from chronic back issues, jobs were difficult, and she often gravitated towards those that require a lot of self-initiative and self-promotion. She's never given in to taking just any old job because she wanted to hold out for something she was passionate about, which has left her with no resume or real work experience to speak of. She's been able to do this because she's living at the home she grew up in with her sister. Her parents no longer live there, so she basically has no rent or bills to speak of. At first, I paid for a few things when she'd go a stretch without work, only for her back pain to take a turn for the worse, and I had to pay even more. I wanted to be there for her and allow her the chance to try this or that until she got on her feet with a career, but it just never seemed to happen. Since the pandemic, things have just gotten worse. She babysat for a few months, but her back pain took another turn for the worse, and she needed surgery. She can't figure out what exactly she wants to do, so she decided she needs a career counselor. This has led to months of supposed homework with no visible progress to speak of. She wasn't applying for jobs because she felt like she couldn't write a resume. After turning to a friend to help her, it still took a couple of weeks just to get a resume done. Then she chooses jobs that obviously require a substantial background that she just doesn't have. She spends her day busying herself with house chores, mostly as a way, in her view, to contribute since she doesn't pay for things. needs, as well as doing physical therapy, medications, and this career guidance homework. I just feel like I've been carrying her as a supportive and understanding partner for a long time now. If I worked in finances and made 6 figures annually, then maybe I wouldn't care. There are plenty of couples and relationships where only one partner works, but I make an average salary in one of the most expensive cities in the United States, and I have no idea how we would ultimately pay for a wedding, buy a home, raise kids, only with 2 incomes. And while I have a well-paying, stable job right now, it's working on staff for an artist. If I ever wanted to leave this job to pursue my own work or another job, God knows I wouldn't be making enough. It leaves me feeling trapped, and when I stop to think about how much time I've lost, I spiral into depression. Part of me feels like I should just leave, but at the same time, I love her and want to see her figure it out, but I don't think she ever will. What should I do? I think first and foremost, you gotta understand that you are not trapped. You still have so much time to figure things out. She has a steady place to live, and there are other people that can support her. So honestly, if you did walk away for whatever reason, even though that's not what I'm saying you should do, she would not be without help. I think honestly, you just need to change your mindset here. If you're genuinely unhappy in this relationship, then that's one thing. But if you feel lost and if you feel depressed and you feel like you've lost so much time, then I think you need to really reflect on how much you do love your girlfriend. You have been there for her through thick and thin for 5 years, all trying to help her get her life together. And you obviously care for each other, otherwise this would not have worked even for 6 months. 5 years is a long time, and I honestly don't think you've lost anything by trying. You took a risk that not a lot of people would want to do. You took a risky career path in the efforts to try and make something that you enjoy, which in my opinion is way better than sitting behind a desk all day. So good for you in that regards. And yeah, you're right, freelance work is really scary and really hard. You never know when your next paycheck's gonna come in, and it can be incredibly stressful. But at least you're trying to live your dreams, both of you. And yeah, it doesn't sound like your girlfriend has things figured out, but sometimes starting from the ground up and figuring out what you do have will hopefully help you set things up for the future. I think you really do need to have an honest conversation with your partner and try to figure out overall what you both want out of this relationship, because it seems like you got 2 options. You can either have a partner in this or a dependent. And I think honestly, from what you've described, you want a partner in life and not someone you're just gonna have to babysit and pay for stuff for the rest of your life. So I wish you the best of luck, and I hope things work out for you. I feel like a consolation prize to my boyfriend, and I'm not sure if I'm overreacting. My boyfriend is 26 years old and I'm 24, and we have been dating for 7 months. For the most part, things have been going well. I really love him. He's patient and kind with me, even when I feel like I don't deserve it. His best friend is a lesbian in her late 20s that lives 6 hours away. They met in college and are into a lot of the same things. I know if she was straight, they would be dating. And if it was just left at that, I'd be okay with it. The problem is that my boyfriend won't stop talking about her in concerning ways. Since the first couple of months I started dating him, he's told me multiple times how hot and attractive he finds her, asking me not to fall in love with her when I meet her, half jokingly, and how he's always wanted to spend some quality time with her, if you know what I mean. To add to the above, he also wears a bracelet she gave him 24/7. Most recently, and what has really been the final straw for me, was that he told me that when he's staying at her place or they share a hotel room, she walks around very indecent without a care in the world. He told me this as if to say, well, isn't it so cool that she trusts me so much? Almost implying that I should be okay with this. But I don't find it cool, and I'm progressively getting more uncomfortable with their relationship. She is perfect for him in every way, from their shared interests all the way to her being incredibly attractive. They just mesh really well. They'll travel to see shows together, go to festivals, and he'll stay at her place when he visits her city. Meanwhile, I'm just lame, okay looking, even though he compliments me all the time. I don't look anything like her or nearly as good as her, and I'm not into his music and partying lifestyle. I honestly feel ridiculous for being worried about a lesbian who lives 6 hours away and has a girlfriend at that. I've also never met her, and I know it's really not her fault, though I do find it really weird that she'll just casually be very indecent around him in such a casual, forward manner. I'm thankful she lives far away too, because I would definitely feel like a third wheel if she lived in our city. I feel like he really loves her, but is settling for me because I will spend quality time with him. But I also feel like I'm being the crazy, controlling girlfriend, being overly upset about this. Am I being unreasonable for questioning our relationship? What should I do? I think there's quite a few red flags in here that I would definitely be concerned about, especially with how much and how often he's saying how attractive he finds his friend. Like, that's incredibly disrespectful towards you. Not to mention the fact that she is obviously and flagrantly indecent around him, and that he's completely okay with this. Like, that seems super sketchy to me. I honestly don't think you're being the crazy, stereotypical, controlling girlfriend. I think if anything, you really should be worried about your boyfriend and his boundaries. Why would he allow such weird situations to occur in his life at your detriment? And yeah, you're not there, but the fact that your boyfriend is so willingly okay with his best friend being incredibly indecent, if you know what I mean, just seems like a really big red flag to me. I would sit down with your boyfriend and have a serious conversation with him and say, hey, you are making me very uncomfortable with the way you're talking about your best friend. And I would explain to him entirely how you feel in this regard. It seems like in many ways he's being very manipulative, especially by stating like, oh, it's so cool she trusts me to be super indecent around me. Like, that's really manipulative in my opinion, and he's looking for validation of some kind. That's my take at least. So yeah, I would take a very serious look at your relationship with your boyfriend, because I don't think you're being crazy for being concerned about this situation at all. Because if I was in your shoes, I'd be concerned about the same thing as well. My boyfriend's family loves his ex-girlfriend, and they have a really close relationship with her, and honestly, I don't know what to do about it. I have been dating my boyfriend for a year now. Quick recap on our relationship. We work together, and for several months, our relationship was more of a situationship. I have never met his parents or anyone from his family, and he has never met mine. This didn't really bother me until now. I found out recently that his ex-girlfriend, whom he dated for 9 years, is still very close with his parents. She goes to brunch with his mom frequently and have heart-to-heart conversations with his dad. She is also very close with his siblings. It is important to point out that the ex-girlfriend lived with them for some time. The family took her in when they were in high school. I also found out in passing conversation with my boyfriend that the ex-girlfriend is going through a breakup right now, and his mom told him to reach out to her because she is really sad apparently. I was aware of the existence of this ex-girlfriend and that she lived with him and his family, but I didn't realize that she was still very close with his family. Yesterday, I went into a deep anxiety spiral, and I ended up stalking this ex-girlfriend on Instagram. She frequently comes over to his parents' house, and the mom comments on her posts a lot. I also found out that she lives less than 3 miles away from him, and they go to the same gym. I told him how this makes me very uncomfortable, but he assured me that he won't reach out to her. I have no reason not to trust him, but at the same time, it seems that she is so embedded in their lives, and it makes me so insecure that his parents love her. So basically, I need advice. I am a very anxious person in general, and this situation is pushing me off the edge. I really like him, but I don't love him yet. I am imagining our future together, and if we do end up being a lot more serious or potentially endgame, I don't think I can handle the closeness of the ex-girlfriend and his parents. I am too insecure and sensitive for this. I am not sure if this is petty, but I thought of breaking up with him over this. He obviously did not do anything wrong, but I really don't want to get hurt. This is honestly just a little too much for me. What should I do? Well, I don't think you should break up with your boyfriend just because of an ex-girlfriend. They dated for 9 years, and she lived with his parents. How are you so surprised that they're so close? They probably view her as a daughter at this point. Even if they broke things off between the two of them, I think you really need to hold on to the fact that your boyfriend has made it very clear that you are his girlfriend, and that this ex-girlfriend is exactly that, an ex-girlfriend. Your anxiety is getting in the way of a good thing. Your boyfriend obviously loves you and has told you straight up, no, I'm not going to message my ex-girlfriend, even if she's sad. Also, you've been dating this person for a full year and you still can't say that you love him? I think you really need to take a deep look at this relationship and see if this is something that you even want in the first place. It seems like the only problem here is the fact that he has an ex-girlfriend who's just really close with the family. It's not like she's made any moves on him that you've made any mention of, and it's not like they've made any negative comments about you at all. It just seems like they're very close with a woman who, yes, they lived with for a very long time. You also have to remember that he spent the formative years of his life dating this girl, from 16 years old all the way up until 5 years ago, as the original poster puts it. So I really wouldn't get bent out of shape because you're kind of the odd man sitting out. He chose you. You've got to remember that. He wants to date you. He loves you, even if you don't feel the same way. So I don't think you should give up on your relationship all because this ex-girlfriend is still involved in their life, when in fact those parents and his siblings probably see her as a sibling or a daughter in their eyes. And that's fine as long as it stays in that regard. And I think this would only be a problem if this ex-girlfriend girlfriend tries to make a move at your boyfriend. Then I would be upset. But until then, I think you're just being way too hard on yourself and you're letting your anxiety ruin your relationship. Should I send a text to my ex after having no communication for 3 years? I dated this girl in high school for my junior and senior year. It was a pretty good relationship overall, and I think we both enjoyed being with each other. As a disclaimer, we still fought and we were off and on every now and again, but not very often. And this doesn't seem to me to be uncommon when dating that young. In any case, towards the end of my senior year, we had more issues than previously, and it could have been the fact that I was leaving 11 hours away to a college, and she was going to stay in high school for another year. But I knew she was seriously considering the college I was going to, however, and I knew that it wouldn't have been her choice had she chosen to follow me, which was a point of contention for me. So we had a lot of issues leading up to the ending of that year, and eventually broke up. We kept talking for about another month after I graduated, but we couldn't work through our issues from the relationship and try to be friends. So the last thing I remember her telling me was, "I'm done." Those words have stuck with me for such a long time, and it hurts even now to write this 3 years after the fact. When I got to college, my older brother, who already went to the same college, introduced me to fraternity life, and it was exactly as you'd expect it. So it was easy to forget about her, and I thought I'd moved on. I kept trying to date other girls, and thoughts of her never really did come into my head. But the dating never worked out, and not one moved on into the relationship stage. So I've stayed single since her. I've heard through mutual friends that she moved on and was dating someone new 3 months after she broke up with me. Not to be the one that cast the first stone, but just to show the difference between her situation and mine. So fast forward to more recently, when I started to really have to focus on my mechanical engineering degree, meaning studying a lot more and just generally being more alone. That's when I started to think about her again, just about reaching out or something, with her being someone that I gave a substantial amount of my formative years to. Truthfully, I don't know what the purpose of doing so would be, however. I don't know if it is me trying to rekindle anything or to just try and be friends again, but just thinking about reaching out. Then about a week ago, completely out of the blue, while working, someone close to me texted me saying I should reach out to her. I had never mentioned to anybody about wanting to talk to her, and I had not talked to this person who just texted me about my previous girlfriend in years. So to say that it shocked me when I received this text message would be an understatement. The friend that texted me out of the blue said that he just woke up that day and felt that he should tell me to specifically talk to her. Since then, all I have actually done is follow her on social media, and she hasn't followed me back. I was hoping that if she didn't, it would give me some solace, but it just seems to be too much of a coincidence for me to leave this at that, especially with someone very close to me telling me I should talk to her. And with the present living situation I find myself in, I don't think I'm that far from her. Maybe a 1 or 2 hour drive, which honestly makes the situation all the more coincidental. So what do you think? Should I send her a text message? What should I do? I think it's been 3 years, so I don't think there's really anything wrong with sending a text message to your ex. As long as you go into this with no expectation of anything happening and just sending a text to try and catch up, it could very well be okay. People can grow up very quickly over 3 years, so a lot of things probably have changed in both of your lives that would be worth catching up on. And while I highly doubt this will blossom into any kind of relationship that you can expect, I think at the bare minimum, this could be a way of getting back together and at least having some kind of friendship again. Because you said it best, you spent a lot of your formative years spending time with this woman, so it wouldn't hurt to at least try and reach out. My boyfriend dumped me, only to then threaten to install Tinder if I didn't come over and meet with him. I am a 28-year-old female and I got dumped by my ex-boyfriend who's 38 years old. I went no contact, yet he keeps reaching out to me. Why is my ex-boyfriend trying to call and contact me 11 days after he dumped me? I was the one to get dumped. It absolutely broke my heart and I cried almost every day. I went on no contact and blocked him everywhere. He tries to reach out to me via several different means. I always ignore his attempts, and I have never responded since the breakup. At first, he was angry and called me childish, that I even blocked him everywhere in the first place. He threatened to install Tinder if I didn't come over. A few days ago, I took my personal belongings from his place during his absence. I made sure he was not there, otherwise I would have been an absolute wreck. Ever since then, he keeps trying to reach out to me. Now, before anyone draws the wrong conclusion, I took my personal items only. I did not leave his apartment in a state of mess, and no, I did not wreck his apartment apartment either. In all honesty, this guy probably already did install Tinder, and he's just not getting the response he wanted. He's literally doing this just so he can get a response. He's trying to dig at you to try and drag you back in. This is 100% manipulation. He's getting frustrated because he doesn't have anybody else he can toss around like he did to you, and so he's desperately trying to bring you back in and reel you back into his life. And trust me when I say this, you do not want that. This guy is a low-life piece of garbage. He is almost in his 40s, and this is how he's acting? Absolutely disgusting. You can do so much better than this. And honestly, he dumped you. He can go ahead and install Tinder. Your best thing to do is to simply move on. There are so many better fish in the sea, it's not even funny. So getting away from someone who's gonna act like this at nearly 40 years old is probably for the better. My entitled parents are forcing me to change my daughter's name, and I could not be more upset. My entitled father called a couple of days ago and demanded that my daughter's name have my maiden name. For context, I'm ethnically Filipino, but I am a second-generation immigrant, as I immigrated when I was 6 years old. Filipino tradition is such that the child's middle name must be the mother's maiden name. For example, if my mother's maiden name was Smith, my middle name would be Smith. My daughter had just graduated high school, and my parents received a picture of her diploma. When they looked at the photo, they realized that I did not have their last name or maiden name on it, and they were very upset. Given that me and my husband are culturally American, but ethnically Filipino, my husband being half Filipino, we decided to give her a new name for her middle name and have her hold her father's last name. My entitled father complained and demanded that I change her name. I told them we are Americans and we live in America, therefore we will use what is culturally appropriate. He told me he does not care about the American way and that I am turning my back on the right way, which according to him is the Filipino way. My daughter is already 18 years old. I can't legally do anything regarding her name anymore. I had told him that, but he yelled and demanded that I must get it done. Not my daughter, but me. And I better do it or else. Personally, I have a myriad of reasons why I don't want my daughter to have my maiden name. A lot of issues including insurance as well as schooling, and even inheritance could also be on the line if she were to change her name. And even more importantly, she doesn't want a different name. My daughter outright said no, and both my husband and I agree with her. Later that night, she called them and told them, very nicely at that, stating quite plainly to them that she will in no way change her name. The only reason she would is if she gets married in the future. My entitled father threw an absolute fit on the phone, and she just ignored him and hung up. They haven't spoken to me since. I want to talk to my parents again, but if they're going to throw a fit over a name and continuously be upset, especially over a name they knew about, then I will cut ties. I honestly hope they get their act together. How weird can you possibly get, to be completely honest with you? Because they knew about this middle name issue for like, what, 17 years? Unless somehow they were just not involved or didn't know anything about this kid for what, 17 years? Why are you cherry picking this issue now of all times? No one is beholden to any type of tradition. If you want to break tradition and do your own thing, then by all means do it, in my opinion. The fact that this entitled father is acting so crazy towards this and trying to force this kid to change their name is just really stepping over the line, in my opinion. This kid is 18 years old. She can decide what she does and doesn't want to do with her well-being. And if she decides that she's not changing her middle name, well then guess what? There's nothing you can do about it. So good for them for standing up for themselves and for standing by their daughter's decision, because this family does not need this kind of energy in their life. My boyfriend has issues with my male friends, and I'm honestly not sure what to do about it. So I'm a 27-year-old female and my boyfriend is 28, and he has issues with me having male friends and hanging out with them. I let him know everything about them. I am always happy for him to join me when meeting them, and I am always transparent, reachable all the time I am out. I don't drink, so there's no chance of me doing something silly. I don't usually hang out with male friends one-on-one late into the evening, but I do often meet them after work, so between 6 o'clock until 10 o'clock. Sometimes I will organize big gatherings, which may go late into the night, and most of the time, it's just mainly guys, just because I have always had more male friends than female friends, despite having put effort to change things. The past several months, my boyfriend has been very busy, so he cannot join me, but he usually does not like hanging out with my friends much anyways. Most of my friends that I tend to meet one-on-one, I have known for quite a long time, so we essentially respect each other and have each other's back. I won't hang out one-on-one with the new guys I have met unless it's for some kind of sporting event. So I'm kind of wondering, is this common common among other men? I am a very extroverted person, and I would love to have more female friends. And usually when a male friend of mine gets a girlfriend, I tend to try and make that girl my friend as well. I am not sure what else I can do to make my boyfriend feel comfortable, and I am not sure why he has these issues with my male friends. I have asked him to explain, but he doesn't really say much besides, if you are this type of girl, I don't think we can work out. I don't get what type of girl I am and why having male friends and hanging out with them in any way defines my value as a woman. What should I do? It sounds like your boyfriend is very insecure and he's being very toxic. If he really has such a problem with you spending time with these guy friends, then he would have the common decency of getting to know them and being there with you when you do hang out. From the sounds of it, you've invited him multiple times, but he just hasn't done the things necessary to make himself feel comfortable. In my opinion, I think men and women absolutely can be friends without there being any kind of ulterior motive. It's completely possible, and it is 100% something people do all the time. But for him to assume that, oh, because she's with male friends, that must mean she's cheating on me, is just really toxic on his part. It would be different if these guy friends were openly flirting with you, then I think it would be a problem, obviously, and you would definitely need to cut off those relationships. But if these are just normal platonic relationships, then there's nothing wrong with that. And I think your boyfriend needs to put a little bit more effort into trying to understand that instead of just having this mentality of, oh, she's going around behind my back, when clearly that is not the case. My boyfriend doesn't think he should have to treat me kindly in our relationship, and honestly, I'm at a loss for words. I'm a 22-year-old female, and my boyfriend is also 22, and we have been dating for 8 years. Recently, we have been arguing a lot, and I decided to have a talk with him about how I've been feeling. He expressed to me that he is upset that we have not been intimate as much as we used to, and I told him it was due to how he treats me emotionally. I said I have a hard time feeling that attraction when he treats me so poorly. He then told me that he doesn't feel like he can treat me kindly and with respect until I start being intimate with him again. I tried to explain to him that I think kindness should come first, but he disagrees. He says that apparently for men, being intimate is 50% of the relationship. So if we aren't going to be intimate together, he can't treat me right. I feel that intimacy should be because of that emotional attraction. I told him he treats his friends with kindness and obviously doesn't expect any of that from them, but he said it's different. I just don't think being kind to your girlfriend should come with a price, and he is starting to make me feel like that's all I'm ever good for. He essentially told me that he doesn't feel like he wants to solve any of my issues I have in the relationship, which is almost entirely about just him treating me better. That is, until we solve his problem about me not being intimate enough. This is all honestly a very new problem for me, and not something I've ever dealt with before. I could really use some advice in this situation, as I'm not sure where to go with this. What should I do? Your boyfriend sounds really manipulative. I would personally, if I was in your situation, dump him fast. This is a major red flag. He's treating you like garbage as a way to get what he wants. And it is absolutely ridiculous for him to say that most men feel this way. That is not how most men feel. This guy is an anomaly. To treat your girlfriend like this, all because she's not being intimate with you, is incredibly disturbing. And in my opinion, you can do so much better than this garbage. It sounds like he's made his position very clear that he's not going to treat you better unless you do certain things with him, and that is unbelievably unfair and toxic. Kindness and love and generosity should be the first thing on the forefront of any relationship, in my opinion. And if this guy doesn't want to do that, then honestly, I would cut your losses and find someone who will. My boyfriend of 9 months is still good friends with his ex-girlfriend, even though he's never told me about her. So my boyfriend and I have been dating for about 9 months now. We met online through gaming, and we are now living together. Most of my boyfriend's friendships are online friends he plays video games with, which is very similar to me. Before me, he was in another online relationship, and after breaking up, they stayed really close friends, and they also shared the same friend group. I knew about her, but I never met her. I only ever met some of the people from this friend group, but that was all before me and my boyfriend started dating. A few weeks before we started dating, my boyfriend had a big falling out with his friend group. From what I've gathered, I know it was because of his ex, and it pretty much seemed like it was because of jealousy and other really petty reasons. I also think there are some details about this that I'm not aware of. Either way, this caused my boyfriend to distance himself from the group and her, because he said it was very toxic and he wanted to take a break from it. I always encouraged him to work things out with his friends eventually, and I was excited to meet them whenever he felt comfortable around them again. He said he would contact them when he was ready, but at the moment, he said he did not want want to, nor did he feel the need to. Many months go by, and my boyfriend and I eventually meet up and move in together. He still expressed no plans to reconnect with the friend group for a little while still. After a month or so, I found out that he had reconnected with his ex, but he had not yet told me about it. He said he messaged her after she had unblocked him and they were catching up. The things he said to her while doing so is where my problem began. In the months that passed from him falling out with his friend group, all the way till then, my boyfriend's life had changed semi-drastically. He had uprooted his life and moved to my country to live with me and get a job here, something that was quite a big deal. When catching up with his ex, however, he specifically went out of his way to avoid mentioning me, saying he was in my country but staying alone at a hotel, and saying that the reason for wanting to move here was simply because he wanted to try something new. I was never mentioned, and neither was the fact that he was in a relationship. I found it strange since this was someone he, multiple times in the past, referred to as his closest friend. So why would he keep such details from her when trying to reconnect? I also found out about the whole thing as an accident, which further hurts my feelings because I did not see why he felt the need to hide it from me. All of this obviously upset me, and I accused him of not being serious about me and lying to me about his intentions. I may have overreacted, but the whole thing made me feel very insecure. We talked it out, and his reasoning was that he didn't want to be that close to her and that he did not feel comfortable sharing private things about his life to these people anymore. I could see where he was coming from, so we made up and moved on. Time went on, and eventually he reconnected with most of the people from the friend group while still keeping them at a distance. The past incident had been on my mind a lot, and it kept giving me a bad feeling, so a couple of times I couldn't help but ask him if he had or would ever mention me to them, which he hadn't. One of the times it turned into a small argument because he got annoyed that I was still bringing it up because he did not understand why I cared so much, and he thought I was accusing him of doing it intentionally. He said he found it awkward to bring it up out of nowhere, and again, he wanted to keep his life private. While I could understand that, I also realized that this was more important for me than for him, and we agreed that if it came up naturally, he would say it. I didn't ask for him to announce me or anything like that, but when asked about his life and the things he mentioned doing and the places he's going, instead of saying he did it all alone, just say that it was with me, his girlfriend, which is true. I considered it an easy request and said it would do a lot to reassure me, and he promised he would do it if it came up. Fast forward to now, and I know he still has not mentioned me to anyone he is talking to. It has been around 4 to 5 months since he initially contacted his ex. The only person I know he has told was one friend he told a long time ago, and she was an older friend who was separate from the group. I can accept that with some of his friends, the topic never really comes up since they speak very rarely and mostly about games. But when it comes to his ex, I cannot understand it. They have gotten a lot closer and seem to be speaking very regularly, sometimes whole days at a time. I'm assuming they're almost back to being as they were before falling out, minus spending time in calls and playing games together. When I ask him why he doesn't do that with her or anyone from the group anymore, he just says he does not want to. I know they discuss their lives a lot and that he is helping her out often. He even sometimes mentions to me what's going on in her life as well. He is also sending her pictures of things he's been up to, so I can only assume he is talking about his life and not being too private. He already told her that he moved from before, so privacy doesn't seem like a good excuse to me anymore since so much time has passed. And that's the part where I am pretty confused about why she has absolutely no idea I exist in his life, and neither does any friend of his that know her. Lately, I have been wondering if his reluctance to speak to them in calls, like before, is because there's usually no way to do it without me being in the same room, which would risk revealing that he is in fact not alone. Why on earth is he hiding me? I basically have no idea how to go about this situation the best way. We never agreed to have any kind of secrecy. I thought after agreeing to do it, he would end up, well, doing it. I'm pretty hurt that he seems to not want to, and it has been hurting my self-esteem. I would love to have someone else's perspective on the situation. Maybe it is not as serious as I am making it out to be, or maybe I need to be more patient. I know I will eventually have to bring it up again, but I don't want to come off as the possessive and jealous girlfriend who won't let her boyfriend have his privacy. It feels almost humiliating, basically begging for what I would consider a pretty easily completed request. But I'll admit I do not understand his perspective fully, so I am hoping someone could help me out. I know it's not a big deal, it just feels so out of place with everything else in our relationship, and honestly, it really bothers me. He is very loving and kind and seems super committed to me. We spend a lot of time hanging out together with my friends, and he says he enjoys that they know we are a couple. We have met each other's parents, and we both know that we're serious about each other. Usually, I talk to him about all of my feelings, but I am just really confused about his decisions surrounding this, and I wouldn't want to cause problems for no reason. I would really appreciate someone else's perspective on the situation since it's causing me so much stress. I think there's a big difference between keeping something private and keeping something a secret. Keeping something private would be him saying, "Hey, I have a girlfriend," and then literally leaving it that, not airing dirty laundry and not really sharing anything else. It wouldn't be a surprise that he has a girlfriend, but other than that, the details can be very vague and that's where you leave it. But keeping it a secret would him being like, "Hey, I moved to this other country by myself and I do all these things by myself." He's not even mentioning your existence. In his eyes, you're a secret, when in reality, you're supposed to be his partner. And if I was in your shoes, I would definitely see this as shady behavior. I really hope this is nothing shady and that he's just being an idiot. But there's no reason for him to lie to his friends, as well as get super close to his ex-girlfriend, with them all assuming that he is still single. That, in my eyes, is just not a good look. It makes it seem like he is still on the market, when in reality, if you do love each other as much as you're saying, he should be more open and say, "Hey, I have a girlfriend." He doesn't have to go into the specifics about it, but he can at the very least make that known, especially in front of his ex-girlfriend. He is talking to his ex-girlfriend without mentioning this lady at all. That is a big deal breaker in my opinion, and a major red flag. It's almost like he's setting things up to try and cheat on her. I really hope that's not the case, but this all seems super sketchy from my side of this. And I think you're asking a question that you already know the answer to when you're asking, why is he hiding me? Worst case scenario, he plans on cheating again and he doesn't want people to know that he's in a relationship. I really hope that's not the case, but honestly, from what you've described, it kind of seems like it's leading in that direction. So I think having an honest heart-to-heart with your boyfriend will really go a long way in this case. Because if you two really do love each other like you say you do, then this should be easy to work out. Otherwise, this might be a deal breaker. My family has lost all of their trust in my girlfriend, and I don't know what to do about it. I'm a 33-year-old male and my girlfriend is 37. We moved to an apartment in her city a couple of months ago after a 3-year long-distance relationship. And ever since then, everything started going downhill. She had to be away from our house for many hours since she had some family problems to solve, and I had to stay by myself for the longest part of the day as I didn't really make any new friends at the time in this new city yet. I started getting a little bit depressed and homesick, and I felt that she didn't understand me. A few days ago, her dad was diagnosed with a heart condition, and he needed to have open heart surgery. She became very depressed, aggressive, and I couldn't have a normal conversation with her. The surgery was scheduled for yesterday, but I had to go back to my city for a couple of days before the surgery as I had to visit my brother and sister who came from overseas, which I hadn't seen for months. I went back to the apartment on Saturday just to have her accuse me that I wasn't there for her. She started insulting and cursing me and my family for no particular reason, and I asked her to stop, but she wasn't willing to. So as a result, I took some of my stuff and drove back to my family in the middle of the night just to try and give her some space. About an hour later, she drove to my parents' house as well, and she woke everybody up at 2 in the morning just to make a big scene and to accuse me that I hurt her in some way, which is a complete lie. After she made this scene at 2 in the morning, she left. The next day, she texted my mother to apologize to her, and she had also told her about her lie. She apologized to me as well and promised me that she will never have this extreme behavior again. But after this, my parents lost all of their trust to this woman, and they suggested me to never return back to her. My brother and sister also have given me some valid points about staying away from her, such as that she might have some serious issues, and I will be miserable for the rest of my life if I stay with her. Although I believe that most of the things my family said are true, true, I want to give her a second chance, as I really love her and care for her, but I'm afraid that I might lose my family, which I really don't want to do. I'm really heartbroken and she is too, but I really don't know what to do. If I was in your shoes and my partner just accused me of domestic assault that never happened, I absolutely would break up with her immediately. There is no way on earth I would give that a second chance. That is an absolutely unforgivable red flag in my opinion. She should not get away with lying about you in a way that is so detrimental towards your future and your character. Like what she did is absolutely unacceptable. I don't care what's going on in her life. To come to your house at 2 a.m. and make such false accusations is incredibly crazy and not something you should ever deal with. Your family is 100% right in this situation. If you go back to her after this, you are crazy and you really will lose your family. If I was a member of your family and I saw this happen at 2 a.m. and you still went back to her to give her another chance, I would think less of you and probably not talk to you again, because this woman is going to ruin your life. Like literally almost everything else is forgivable in my eyes, but the fact that she tried to accuse you of assault is absolutely crazy to me. So in my opinion, I think the writing's on the wall, and if you were smart, you would get away from this crazy lady while you still have the chance. An entitled Karen gets so angry that she threatens me over a parking spot, and I could not be more shocked. So I want to preface this by saying that I work in a retail outlet. For those who don't know what that is, it's basically an outside mall. Anyways, parking where I work is always crazy. It's neck for neck for a good parking spot, and on busy days like today, I usually avoid the parking disputes and park in the parking garage, which is pretty far from my job. On my lunch break, when it slowed down, I decided to move my car and park it in front of the store I work at. No biggie, I get a parking spot and start enjoying my break and call my significant other. After hanging up with my significant other, the parking space in front of me opens up as an SUV leaves, so I pull into the spot. However, when I pull in, I guess there was a car sitting and waiting to take the spot. I didn't originally see it due to the fact that the SUV blocked my line of sight. When I pull forward, the entitled Karen sitting in her car goes absolutely insane, screaming that I need to move my car and that what I was doing was illegal and so on. So being a little petty, I stand my ground and I refuse to move. Now, if this entitled Karen had been nice and asked me to move, I would have moved for them absolutely no problem. But instead, she decided to go insane and scream at me, so I stood my ground. Not to mention there are about 5 open parking spots around me that she could have easily taken, including the one I had just pulled out of. I tried to ignore her, hoping she'd simply give up and leave, but boy was I wrong. She approaches my car, screaming at me at the top of her lungs through my window, demanding that I move and insisting again that what I just did was illegal. Again, I was ignoring her, hoping she'd give up, leave, and take another of the 5 or so parking spots around me. At one point, I rolled down the window, asked her politely to leave me alone or I will contact the police. Instead of being polite and backing off, she decided to start cursing at me, as well as inviting me to call the police. She simply didn't care, since what I was doing was illegal. Then, as I'm waiting for her to stop, she starts banging on my car window, once again screaming at me and threatening to put her hands on me. As I continue to ignore her, she goes around to the passenger side of my car, opens my door, and sticks her head in, screaming and yelling at me. At that point, I pulled out my phone and contacted the police, out of fear of what this crazy entitled Karen would do to me. When she sees I'm actually calling the police, she gets in her car and leaves, but not quick enough for me to get her license plate. Mind you, this lady was with her friend or whatever, and her kid was in the back seat, which you know is a fantastic precedent to set for your child. The police finally show up and I give them the rundown. As I'm talking to the police, this entitled Karen shows back up again, and the other officer goes to talk to her. I told the police that I wanted to press charges. He tells me that even though I could, it likely won't get pushed through, considering the police weren't there to witness it. I also didn't record it and I had no witnesses. I was upset about this, but as I continue talking to the officer, this wonderful lady approaches us and lets the officer know that she witnessed this entitled Karen try and enter my car. The officer then says I have more of a ground to press charges, so I decide to do so. I don't speak to that entitled Karen again, but she really dug her own grave by coming back, because even with a license plate number, they can't prove it was the woman. But luckily, she came, and I have a witness. So after work, I'll be heading to the police station to fill out the paperwork. I absolutely love to see justice come to an entitled Karen Karen who absolutely had it coming. Who in their right mind would freak out like this over a parking spot, especially when there's other spots available that they could take? I cannot imagine someone banging on my car window and then trying to get into my car and then successfully getting in my car just to yell at me over a parking spot. You must have some serious issues in your life to treat someone else like this over a parking spot. Go to therapy, lady. Overall, I'm really glad that this lady had a witness on the sideline that watched this all go down. That makes this story so much sweeter because now she's got proof and now she really will have grounds to press charges. So congratulations to this original poster. Because of you, one less Karen is now going to terrorize the world. And for that, we give our thanks. How can I handle my really difficult neighbors? I lived in my home for a couple of years now, and I have great neighbors. It's a quiet community where everyone seems to respect everyone else. Recently, new renters have moved in, and at first they seem really nice. However, that fell apart when one day I was coming home from work and saw them pulling into my parking space. I pulled up behind them, not blocking them in or doing anything that could be seen as offensive, and said, "Hey, how are ya?" I didn't get a response, so I said, "Do you mind parking in your spot because that one is actually mine?" She had a major attitude, and her and her friends jumped out of the car like I did something wrong. She tried to tell me that she could park there, so I assumed that her landlord didn't inform her of her own parking spaces. So I pointed to her spots and said, "Those right there go with your house. No one else will park there." She actually said, "I'll move this one time, but I won't move again." I informed the HOA because I had a feeling that this would be an ongoing issue. The HOA said they would inform them. Ever since then, she hasn't spoken to me and has parked in my spot several other times. Each time, I've reported it to the HOA. Now, whenever she sees me, she makes a point to say something nasty and rude to the people that she is with. And tonight, I heard a racial slur. On a personal level, I'm very easy to get along with. But if she parks in my space, I have nowhere else to park without causing the same problem for another neighbor. And worst of all, each time, both of her parking spaces have been completely open. I'm truly not trying to be difficult or petty, but my spaces are included in the deed and are literally my own spaces. How can I peacefully handle this situation? I'm not trying to have any issues with the neighbors, but it seems that she is doing this on purpose. What should I do? I want to say first and foremost, yes, they are absolutely doing this on purpose. They're being nasty because you called them out on it. And I guarantee you that this lady is the same type of person who has never been told no about anything in their life. You've informed the HOA, you've told them verbally, "Hey, you can't park in my spot," but guess what? They're still doing it. So, in my opinion, if I was you, the next time I see their car parked in my spot, I'm calling a tow truck and I'm having it moved. You have a distinct claim over that parking spot specifically, and they do not deserve to sit there and park their car. You've tried to be polite, but they've escalated this after they made some terrible comments about you. So in my opinion, let's take this to another level. And I can't think of a better way for this to be escalated than getting her car towed away from your space. Another option is to try and record every situation in which she parks her car in your spot and then send these complaints every single time to the landlord. Record everything you can, whether video or audio, and any interactions you have with her, even just from a distance, record that lady at all costs. There's a very good chance if you record all of this stuff, you might be able to get her evicted, or at the very least have some kind of defense if she tries to escalate this further, as proof that this lady has been targeting you specifically. There's a good chance that you're not the only one being treated like garbage by this lady, and there might be a good chance that the landlord has already gotten complaints from other tenants. So they're probably just looking for a good excuse to get them out of there, and you might be the very person to help them do it. So record everything and don't let a single detail get past you, because pretty soon, if you do this enough, you might find yourself with better neighbors. I am having a hard time coping with my boyfriend's poor time management, and I'm honestly not sure what to do. I've been dating this guy for around 9 months, and he has very poor planning, and he's very forgetful in general when it comes to everything. He is one of the worst people I've ever met about being on time. He is rarely on time, and I mean more than 30 minutes late consistently, and there's always a new excuse each and every time. He also forgets about our dates. In April, he completely forgot about our date that we planned the day prior. Last week, he made plans with someone else and went to bed and forgot again. I was hurt, but I let it slide after he apologized. The last straw was a couple of days ago, where we said we would go out together at noon. I got all dressed up and everything, then texted him asking if he was ready, and I got nothing in response. At 3 in the afternoon, I got a text message telling me that he just got up and that now he's ready, as if I was just patiently waiting there for him for 3 hours on my one day off. Needless to say, I felt disrespected and incredibly frustrated. I told him I didn't want to go anymore. He sent me more messages like, "I miss you," which I honestly just didn't even bother opening. He just doesn't act like it's a big deal and it's whatever. When I talked to him asking him why he left me waiting, all he could say was, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And that's it. He hardly ever calls me or visits me. We only talk once or twice a month. So that honestly makes him blowing me off even worse. It takes him an entire day to respond to my messages. And it honestly seems to be getting worse with time. And I feel if he continues, I'm going to get resentful. It makes me feel like I'm the only one putting in any effort. I'm kinda old-fashioned, but I was raised to view being punctual as very important. And being on time is a matter of pride. Like if I say 10 o'clock, I will be there at 9:45, as long as there are no emergencies. I find being late very embarrassing and shameful, and forgetting about your significant other when you made plans is just really hard to understand for me. Are we just too different? What should I do? It is completely inappropriate for him to leave you waiting for 3 hours just for you to go out on a date. You both made plans, you both said, "Hey, we're gonna be here at this time," and then he completely goes back on it and betrays that trust and completely forgets. In my opinion, there's really no good excuse at this point. And in my opinion, time management is a big deal when it comes to relationships. I'm sure he's probably lovely around you and he's very loving and kind and probably meets your needs in a lot of ways. But if he is not reliable and dependable when it counts, how on earth could you imagine making this work? I just don't see a good future if this guy is going to continue to act like this. But even worst of all, it seems like he can make plans with his friends, but he can't make concrete plans with, his girlfriend, which in my opinion is just completely inappropriate. That's the one person you really do need to put first and say, "Hey, I'm going to prioritize my plans with her and make sure that I get there on time." If I was in your shoes, I would make it very clear to my boyfriend that, "Hey, you need to change because this is putting a strain on our relationship." Because I do not think it's unreasonable for you to expect him to be on time and to consider your time as well. My boyfriend needs space after a huge argument, but still wants to keep in contact daily. So my partner and I have been seeing each other for nearly a year. My partner's 31 years old and I'm a 30-year-old female. Long story short, we've gotten into a series of arguments in the last month due to our struggles communicating. We both played a role in the miscommunications, but it hit a tipping point where I blew up and said some things that really hurt him. I didn't call him rude things or say things intentionally to hurt him. I was just feeling insecure and questioning his love and care for me, as he's not a very communicative guy. We've had several conversations since then and are finally at a point where we're able to calmly talk about our feelings, needs, and boundaries, all without falling into the cycle of blaming each other. The problem now is that because of the hurtful things I said, he says he needs a lot of space to process everything and decide if he can move forward. But he said he still wants to talk and text each other and wants to hang out still, but as friends. He has texted me at least once a day, every day in the last 3 weeks since our huge argument. He asks how I am, what I have planned, and all these other things. My question is, what do I do with this? We've both acknowledged our roles in our last conversation, and I have apologized to him multiple times for the things I've said and explained the root of my words. I talked to him about the steps I've been taking to make sure I never behave like that again, but he is still on the fence on if he can trust that this cycle won't happen again. We're both in therapy, and this incident has shown me I need to further improve my communication skills and work on continuing to improve myself. What do I do now? How do I navigate this? I'm torn between setting boundaries and cutting contact until he makes his decision to either end our relationship or start fresh together and move forward, or giving him space while still showing him my support and commitment to him, fixing our issues and doing better. I am 1000% certain I will never behave that way ever again. I miss him and I love him very much, beyond words that I can describe. Now that we've laid everything out in the open, I'm sure we have a fighting chance to rebuild our relationship and work on our communication together. I'm convinced that if we make it past this, I'm going to marry him. But am I uselessly holding out hope? I'm trying not to blame myself and give myself grace, but it's hard because because I feel like I ruined a good thing with my emotional outburst. I'm staying busy and tending to myself, but the sadness I feel is profound. What should I do? I think if you're working on yourself and you're both trying to move forward in the right direction, then I think you're doing everything you need to do. At this point, it kind of seems like the ball's in your boyfriend's court, and there's not much you really can do besides wait and try and be supportive of whatever decision he makes. It honestly sounds like things are going in the right direction for you two, so hopefully things work out and hopefully you can salvage your relationship, because it sounds like you're putting the work in. My girlfriend of 8 months broke up with me because her heart wasn't in it 3 weeks after me moving to her city. So my girlfriend and best friend of 8 months broke up with me out of nowhere, and I don't know what to do. My first relationship was a year long and broke up due to family pressure and other tangible reasons, and I grieved for 4 months when I met my current girlfriend. I rejected her at first as I wasn't ready for a relationship, but 2 months later, I realized she exceeded my first girlfriend in every single way, and we blossomed into an amazing relationship. I know everyone says you'll meet someone better, but I'm 28. I've gone on dozens and dozens of dates. I've met countless girls, but I've never met a silly, goofy, yet ambitious and smart, beautiful girl like her. I definitely sound like I'm putting her on a pedestal, but the connection we have is immeasurable. Before she met me, she was in a toxic relationship for a year, and she never thought she'd experience a love like she did with me. She even said she will try to find me in others, but doubts that she will be able to. And most importantly, she acknowledged she could be making a terrible mistake and regret it and come back later, but she has to do it right now. She says there's no specific reason as to why we're breaking up. She said that she just realized her heart isn't in it for the last 2 months, and it hasn't gotten any better. Basically, it all started with the fact that I was in a city 4 hours away, and she wanted me to move to hers before introducing me to her family. Eventually, though, I did just that after lots of applying, and that's when she started having panic attacks. She's always had mental health issues with anxiety and depression. That combined with this being the toughest semester of her master's degree, overall, I genuinely thought that she got cold feet. Also, we went on a supposed break for like 2 to 3 months when she realized that she wants a provider and someone who's ambitious in their career. While I always nagged her when we lived together, she has to pay 50% of everything and wasn't taking my career that seriously at the time. I think those 2 reasons are why she decided to dump me the most. Now I'm in a city 4 hours away from my family and friends, and I'm soon to be truly single. She asked me to stay friends because she would legitimately be depressed without me in her life, and we're still talking and sending memes to each other at the moment. But once she's done with exams this week, I'm meeting her one last time next week. She doesn't know it'll be the last time, but I'm telling her that I can't be friends with her and know the reasons that she dumped me, and that I will work and improve myself, and hopefully she comes back to a better man. I'm clinging on to hope that she'll come back. I feel it in my heart that she will. She had valid reasons to be scared of a future with me, as I wasn't being a man, but I've learned the lesson the hard way. Now I'm in a new city alone with nothing to lose and everything to gain. I hate to break it to you, but I think you're really avoiding reality right now, and that is that this relationship is over. She kicked you to the curb, and I think you need to move on. That's easier said than done, right? You two obviously connected together in a way that you haven't found before, and to that end, I'm so sorry that things didn't work out. But I think holding on to some irrational hope that she'll come back to you is only going to do more damage to you than good. I don't think she's going to be coming back to you. It's wishful thinking at best, and I think you need to start packing your bags, so to say, and find someone better in your life. My parents have come to visit me and changed everything in my condo without my consent, and now I'm really upset. In November of last year, I moved into a condo my parents own in the Midwest. I used to live with a roommate, but she moved out and left a ton of mess behind. And it's stuff that I was told not to mess with until my dad could fix it. When I first moved out here, they were okay with me not paying rent because I didn't have a real job yet. I got one in February and have been paying rent ever since on my own. I love my parents and they are good people, but they have recently come to visit me at their place. They gushed about how much they miss me and they couldn't wait to see me. My parents are very ridiculous and minimalistic. They like straight lines and bland decor. Since I lived here alone, I decorated my countertops, added colors and lights, all very tasteful. I went ahead and cleaned all Saturday, even though I knew it would never live up to their standards of cleanliness. When they walked through the door, there were barely any greetings and their faces immediately fell. The blinds weren't wiped down, the shelves had dust on them, and I used Windex instead of granite cleaner on the table. There was no happy rekindling because everything was wrong from the moment they stepped through the door. I know this is their place, and they have every right to feel and do as they please. They moved all my plants, replaced my pillows, rearranged my furniture, and threw away my decorations. And my mom wants to rearrange my closet. I know they are just trying to help, but it's draining me. I didn't ask them to do any of these things. I just wanted them to come by and just be with me. They claim they are doing this for me and want to make sure I'm set up before they leave to go back home. But I was okay before they came by. To add to this, my mom polices everything I eat. I had a cheat day and ordered Papa John's and got a cookie cake, and my mom tried to take it from me in front of me and told me I'd lose more weight if I didn't eat so much on the weekends. I diet 5 days a week and stay away from carbs. Her controlling nature and my dad being equally ridiculous has been taking a toll on my mental and emotional health. I never wanted anything to change. I work from home and barely have enough energy for output. When I apologize, they'll say, "We'll just leave early." But I don't want them to leave. I just wanted them to come and spend time with me and not change anything. But everything has changed. In fact, I cried silently in my car all because of this. I don't know why it's taking such a toll on me. I feel so bad and I'm just not sure what to do. It sounds like your parents not only don't know your boundaries, but if they do, they completely cross them. I can understand that you want them to come by to spend time with them. They're family, of course you do. But the fact that they went into your house and changed everything that you enjoyed and basically stripped away all the things that made you unique about your house is just really inappropriate. There is no good reason for them to have done that to you, and honestly, I absolutely would say something. This needs to be addressed. Overall though, I really hope you're able to talk to your parents about this and let them know that they crossed the line and that what they did in your home is inappropriate. My entitled mother steals all the money I got for my 18th birthday party, and I could not be more upset. First, a bit of background. I was born a quiet child. By the time I was a few weeks old, I'd sleep through the night, wouldn't cry, and to keep me entertained, I'd just be left on a pile of cushions with sensory toys my grandma made for hours on end. My mother divorced her first husband because he couldn't have kids, and got pregnant with me, her first child, as soon as she met my father. Yet she quickly ran out of interest for me, and my grandparents, her parents, quickly took over for most of the parenting duties. My father tried his best while working night shifts. My neurological development was a lot faster than my motor ones, and as such, I talked very quickly. I learned to read at 5, but it took me longer than most kids to properly walk. Very quickly, I became a quiet child, preferring the company of books and notebooks to just about anything else. This would become, by the way, in my mother's book, signs that I was a defective child. Yet she was too busy cheating on my father to do anything about it besides being a terrible parent. Eventually, divorce ensued, a stepfather took my dad's place, and would treat me terribly on a regular basis until I learned how to scream to make him get away from me because the neighbors would know. From this point on, my mother started to play a destructive game. She would behave like the perfect mother on the outside, but there would be a constant nightmare waiting for me when I'd get home. In the meantime, she had 2 other kids, my brother, or so we believe, who's 3 years younger than me, as well as my stepsister. Both kids are treasured as normal kids, while I am told I'm a waste of space, time, and oxygen behind closed doors. Fast forward to my 18th birthday. Birthday parties were a thing because she would invite parents and show how perfect of a mother she was. The minute they were gone, I'd be chastised for eating cake and not wanting to find a boyfriend, and presents would end up in my siblings' rooms. So, my 18th birthday, my friends were all having big parties I was invited at, so my mother went all overboard with doing a big garden party, but she decided I wasn't good enough to be celebrated on my own, so she made it a 15th birthday party for my brother and a 10th birthday party for my stepsister. The day of the party comes, and one after the other, I notice that the only thing they talk about are my siblings' birthdays. Not one wished me a happy birthday. I quickly realized that no one was told it was my birthday too. Actually, nobody even knew. One of my stepfather's sister-in-laws learned about it and confirmed that she wasn't told it was mine too. She was a very opinionated woman woman and was outraged, so she took it upon herself to inform the guests about the situation, and before I knew it, she was collecting cash from people voluntarily to give to me to try and make up for it. As you can imagine, the party then took a sour turn, but at the end of the day, she gave me an envelope full of cash. It was hundreds of dollars, but to me, it looked like it was a lot. She told me to go use that money and spend time with my friends, and I was honestly, utterly, and completely in absolute disbelief. My entitled mother, after accusing me of ruining the party, found out about it and took it from me. She said it would help pay for my driver's license. Keep in mind also that I have not received any Christmas presents for 2 years now, under the same excuse that she's saving up for my driver's license. A couple of weeks later, I asked about said driver's license, and her answer was, "Well, you better get a job to fund it because I'm not paying a cent towards it." Now, this all happened about a few years ago. Shortly after this event, I got a job at Disneyland Paris so that I could live there in Disney housing and away from her. I did come back for Christmas, mainly for my grandparents, and she pulled off another one of her tricks there. As I was desperate back then to earn her love, I bought her an insanely expensive perfume that basically cost me 1/4 of my pay. She took my brother's then girlfriend for an expensive shopping trip, buying her clothes, lingerie, chocolates, beauty products, jewelry, and she got me a dollar store clock with the price still attached to it. The following year, she took her good children on a vacation and took a local girl who was underprivileged with them. She guilt-tripped me into joining them for a few days, and the four of them had a blast humiliating me in public spaces, making me feel unworthy and completely useless. They would cover my food with salt, cut short any conversation I would try and partake in, making me feel guilty for not being financially able to take them all to eat in a gourmet restaurant. And she even had the audacity to tell me that she would happily swap me with the underprivileged girl anytime. I cut short the stay and I left. One day, a few months later, my grandmother took me aside as I was staying with them, and she told me in these exact words, "Listen, I am ashamed of her and I wonder every day where we went wrong with her. Your grandfather and I, our lives are just as good as over, but yours is just starting, and if you don't walk away for good, she's going to ruin you." I left the following day and moved to North Carolina. My entitled mother trashed me on social media, calling me selfish. I blocked her in every way possible. I now live with my best friend. I am in therapy and undergoing treatment for severe anxiety, depression, and complex PTSD. And I'm taking life one day at a time while working to open my own business soon, all the while thankful that I'm away from my entitled mother. The mom in this story is absolutely disturbing. I mean, I'm so happy for this original poster that they were able to get away from her, but the trash they had to navigate through just to get where they're at is really sad, and it's something that they absolutely did not deserve. That birthday party sounded like an absolute nightmare. I can't imagine having my own birthday and not only having to share it with my siblings, whose birthdays are on different days, but then when the family tries to come together and provide some semblance of a birthday gift in money, she takes it away and never gives it back. I don't blame them for a second for moving away, and I think the fact that they took their grandparents' advice to heart is the best thing they've ever done. And hopefully they have peace in their life and they never have to put up with that terrible entitled mother ever again. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for wanting to get away from my terrible father, despite my supposed positive upbringing that he claims? I don't normally like posting sensitive topics regarding family, or anything for that matter, but considering how my situation seems to get worse by day, I genuinely don't know what to do, and at this point, I'm just looking for some advice. To give a window into my life, I am a 24-year-old male with separated parents, and I'm the oldest sibling. I have one younger full-blooded sister and other half-siblings. I'm going to college but also work in retail, and I live rent-free with my father, his wife, and half-siblings. My father is a hard-headed individual who to some will say that it's his way or the highway. We live in a single-story house with some quality features, like a spacious house, a fridge full of food, large property with dogs, and a family-owned business on site. Now, I understand I'll probably get chewed out for complaining about living rent-free, getting free food, etc., all while going to school and working while others have it much harder than me. But please hear me out. Throughout my life, I've done what I could to stay on my father's good side, all for the sake of my family, appreciating what I was given, and of course living up to his expectations. I worked hard to get A's and B's throughout my school life, graduating high school with honors, respecting my elders no matter what they said, and doing my best to look like a golden child and in the eyes of others to boost my father's social standing. Whenever we had guests over, I was expected to talk and mingle, and whether we were out and about or at home, I was expected to be at my father's beck and call. If he whistled for me, I was expected to show up to his room ready to receive orders or answer questions, like a dog on command. Now, to some, it seems like the near perfect life. Sure, my parents were separated, but I lived a life with a roof over my head, food on the table, clothes on my back, and then some. But it honestly wasn't all sunshine and gumdrops. As I said before, I was and still am expected to follow my father's expectations to the T, but no one bats 1,000, and I sure as heck made mistakes along the way. Simply being who I am is already a strike in his eyes, as my father's vision of me and my life was always to finish school, looking trim and fit, while getting a beautiful girlfriend, owning a house, starting a family, and taking over the family business, or at least starting my own successful one. He also expects me to enjoy all of his hobbies like sports, going out socially, and having people see me as this overall perfect individual living the American dream. I don't fit his mold at all, as I've yet to leave home, I'm overweight, I don't have a relationship and I never have had one, I work in retail, and I enjoy my time watching anime, collecting figures and cards, and playing video games. I absolutely hate social gatherings, family or otherwise, because I don't like speaking with others and simply enjoy my small inner circle of a few friends, as well as my sister, whom I couldn't live without. Ever since I was little, anytime I did something that went against my father's wishes, I would get scolded for not doing as he said. Whether it was something small like leaving my socks on the living room floor, or something big like stolen money or hiding something like report cards and the like, I was greeted with these awful punishments, sometimes without warning and sometimes worse than just a scolding, if you know what I mean. As a side note, I want it on the record that anything lower than a B on my grades, even if it was still passing, was never good enough for him, and rather than finding ways to help me improve, I was always greeted with punishment, which admittedly only made things worse for me. As I got older, the more intense punishments got put to rest, but that hasn't stopped him from destroying my already non-existent self-esteem. My father also makes it a constant habit that because my sister and I are overweight, to ridicule us because of our waist size. What really boils my blood is that given the situation, he will most undoubtedly bring it up in front of others simply to get a laugh or to boost that ego of his. Unfortunately, my sister gets it worse as far as the weight thing, because she's a girl and is expected to look beautiful or she'll never be pretty enough for a man, and I wish she didn't have to deal with it. Luckily, she's moved out and doesn't deal with it on a daily basis like I do. Despite his own gut, my father has always had the need to fat shame, call people nicknames that to some are hurtful, and even criticize certain lifestyles or people who aren't married but live together, and I've always hated him for that. I've even refused to bring some of my friends over because some are a bit on the heavy side, and I don't want to hear him bash them simply because they're big. I love my friends and I hate it when someone badmouths them, especially for how they look. I work hard at my job, and when I finally come home, how I choose to spend my downtime should be my choice entirely, whether it's enjoying my hobbies, hanging with friends, or simply sleeping the day away. But I'm constantly on high alert for my father because I don't want to be fat shamed for just making myself a meal or being called a useless good for nothing because I barricade myself in my room away from others to refrain from being a burden. That's what I do no matter what. I do what I can so I don't have to be anyone's burden, but obviously it's impossible. But I try anyway. I want to also point out that while I don't pay rent or any bills, I'm still responsible for vehicle upkeep, my phone, and I pay for my own food so I don't have to rely on my family as much. As I've said before, I want to finally leave to start my life how I want without his constant stifling. But with being in school, a job in retail, and the US's horribly rising cost of living, I don't see it happening anytime soon. I'm also very afraid of even going out on my own, or even with roommates, as I was never taught anything about survival in the world, like finances and the like. But that hasn't stopped my father from constantly asking when I'm going to finally grow up. I feel stuck with virtually nowhere to go, with the constant thought that at the drop of a hat, my father could kick me out and I wouldn't know what to do from there. My sister already has her hands full as it is with her life, so I don't want to add to it even if I try and pull my weight. And one thing I forgot to mention is that my mother is still in the picture, but lives very far away and again has her own problems to deal with, so I don't want to burden her as well. So basically, in my opinion, my father has always chastised me for the life I'm living now, even though in his eyes I had the perfect childhood. But from my perspective, I see it as far from that as possible and want to finally be rid of the constant down-talking. So please, help me out here. Am I the jerk for wanting to get away from him and live my own life? You are absolutely not the jerk in this situation for wanting to get out and be on your own and be your own man. Sounds like your father's a piece of garbage. I think there are some solid steps you can take so that you can be ready to live on your own. There are a lot of free resources online that can walk you through how to live on your own. From taxes to finances to groceries to finding a place to live to finding roommates who are respectable and people you can actually be okay living with. There's a lot of opportunities there. My honest suggestion is to save money now. And based on the way your father is treating you, I would not tell him about your plans of wanting to move out and cut him off, because it sounds like he really would kick you out of his house at the drop of a hat, and you really would be on your own trying to figure out what to do. So it's better to have a game plan now, so when you do move out, you know exactly how to handle everything. Even if everything gets taken away from you, having a plan of action of how to get around with public transportation, as well as how to find a place to live or where to go if you do get kicked out, will be very valuable information for you to use in the off chance that you need it. Regardless of what happens, I really am sorry for the upbringing you've had to endure. It must have been miserable being treated like that, and I can only imagine being at your father's beck and call at the drop of a hat. I mean, how obnoxious is that? Hopefully things work out for you, and hopefully you're able to devise a plan so that you can be ready to move out and live on your own, if that is indeed what you want to do. My soon-to-be wife has ADHD, and honestly, it's burning me out. First, some background. My fiance and I live together, and we have been engaged for over a year. We also dated for several years prior. She bought the house. We both work full-time, and the issue at hand is the fact that my soon-to-be wife has ADHD. I am honestly at my wit's end when it comes to the household chores, projects, and most importantly, time. Both my fiance and I work full-time 9 to 5, but it's after work when the issues start to rise up. When I get home, I like to have a few minutes of downtime before starting on the home chores and projects. And then I like to stop at around 8 o'clock to eat dinner, clean up dishes, and do things like card games, video games, spending time together, whatever. My fiance, however, goes straight from work to chores and won't stop doing chores or projects until she drops. Typically, she even skips lunch at work, and then after work will do chores and projects until 10 o'clock at night, where she only then eats something unhealthy. And then once we have reset the house by putting away all the dishes, cleaning the countertops, and then some, by that point it's 11 o'clock at night, so I only have the energy to lay on the couch, watch an episode of TV, and then we both go to bed. I feel completely overworked and like my entire life is being steamrolled by her, and I am stuck in a bind. If I want to spend any time with her whatsoever, I have to help out. I don't mind the work, really. I pull my own weight, and I have single-handedly done some major projects to improve her house. There are even chores that are 100% mine. However, she will often go back and do them again even after I have done them, and I don't halfway do anything. I cannot keep going like this. Every weekday, I wake up, go to work, come home, work all night, and then go to sleep. Sometimes we agree to stop at a certain time, but it doesn't really help. Most often, she blows past that time and then does a bunch of other things while I'm sitting around waiting on her to finish. And then by the time she is done, it is already close to 11 again, and neither of us have any energy to do anything productive anymore. She tells me that I don't have to help and that I should just do what I want and let her do her own thing, but I cannot sit back and let her do everything. I know having a house is a joint effort, and she also gets mad at me if I don't help enough. She complains she doesn't have any hobbies or friends. I don't know what to tell her other than, no duh, you don't do anything fun. You literally work all day and then work all night. She tells me, just tell me when to stop and I'll stop. But when she is in the moment, there is no stopping her. This is affecting just about every aspect of our life. She agrees with this, but does nothing to attempt to rectify the problem. We have had multiple sit-downs and discussions where we reach a resolution, but the resolutions never get implemented. She promises things will change. She admits it's a problem and doesn't want to be like that, but she doesn't actually do anything to stop it. I, on the other hand, have been spending tons of money and time trying to help her, but nothing works, and I get no appreciation. The more I do, the more work gets put on me, and now I find myself doing the same stuff. I hardly ever do the things I like to do anymore because it's too late and I'm too tired. We've tried organizing all the tasks we want done in a particular day and sticking to only those, but honestly, it doesn't help. She just keeps going. We've tried picking a hard limit of when we're gonna stop, but she consistently blows past it by at least an hour and a half. I then propose a stopping time of 1.5 hours prior to the real stopping time, but she blows past both of those and just keeps going. It's like she literally can't do anything other than work between the hours of 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. And don't even get me started on the weekends. I am seeking advice from other people who have dealt with similar situations on how to cope with this. General chore and labor division strategies aren't really what I am looking for since she doesn't follow them. How do you deal with someone who wants to change, says they will change, asks for help in order to change, but then does everything not to change? It sounds like your wife needs to see a doctor. This is really not normal behavior. To clean your house again and again and again, day after day, sounds incredibly obsessive. And that does not sound normal. And honestly, it's a little concerning. I think seeing a doctor and explaining to them, hey, my wife cleans the house obsessively every day of the week, and what you've described is not normal. I don't know of anybody who does a deep clean of their house every night, all night. That's crazy to me. So if she really does have ADHD, and if she's exhibiting signs that are probably similar to that, or if you even think that she has that, I would probably go to her and be like, hey, I think medication might be the solution here, or at least one of the solutions we can try that might help the situation. If anything, the doctor can at least point you guys in the right direction of what to do, because this is a type of behavior that is just not normal in my opinion. So I wish you the best of luck, and hopefully you're able to figure this one out, because this definitely sounds like a mess. My girlfriend just found out that she's pregnant and wants to break up with me and raise the child alone. My girlfriend and I have been dating for almost 9 months. Things have been going great and I'm very much in love. Recently, she introduced me to her kids. She has a 19-year-old, a 15-year-old, and an 11-year-old. I've been getting to know them and they're all fantastic. 2 weeks ago, she cancels plans out of the blue and sends a text message saying she wants to break up. I start racking my brain, trying to figure out what could have possibly happened, and I can't come up with anything. We had just spent the evening before together and everything was great. I finally get a hold of her and she tells me she's pregnant and doesn't know what to do. I'm secretly thrilled because I've always wanted kids and I know she's a great mom, but I just tell her that I'll support whatever she decides and that I'm here for her. But she gets even more upset because she says we haven't known each other for long enough to have a baby and she needs to also worry about the kids she already has. That itself is completely valid, but I also know that she had a very awful and terrible childhood, and I know what's weighing on her as well. She's been very intent on taking things very slow, which I understand and I have been fine with. Finally, after almost 2 weeks, she text messaged me again, saying she's going to keep the baby but doesn't want me involved. I'm absolutely floored right now, and I don't even know how to respond. Ideally, we would stay together and raise the baby together. If she didn't want to keep it or didn't want to stay together, I know I would just have to accept it. But for her to have the baby and not let me be involved at all, I'm just supposed to have a kid out there and I'm not allowed to see it? I understand she's scared, but that doesn't seem fair. I want to be respectful because I know this is a stressful time for her, but I'm not going to just say okay and promise to walk away. Honestly, I have no idea what to do. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but is she maybe cheating on you? That is honestly the first thing that came to mind for me. I immediately thought, oh, this kid is not his, because the way she's acting is really weird. Like, wouldn't you want the man who is going to be this kid's father involved involved in that kid's life? Why would you suddenly say, nope, it's my baby, you can't see it, we're breaking up, see ya? And worst of all, this came out of nowhere, like she was so happy. It's like her getting pregnant was the very thing that she did not want, and that was enough for her to immediately dump you. I don't know about you, but that just seems super suspicious. Like, why would you do that suddenly out of nowhere just because you're pregnant? I mean, it's not like she didn't think you were good boyfriend material because she introduced her kids to you, and you were making an effort to get to know them, to be more involved in their life to some degree. So the assumption that she couldn't trust you, to me, just doesn't make sense, because introducing your boyfriend to your kids is a very special moment, and that, in my opinion, is a big sign of trust. So why is it all of a sudden that she doesn't want him involved now that a new child is introduced into the mix? My first thought is that she's cheating, but hopefully that's not the case. Whatever happens, I wish you the best of luck in navigating this, and if you truly are not able to see this kid, and it is your kid after all, then I'm really sorry for how things went down. But hopefully things work out and you're able to be involved in this kid's life. An entitled Karen's son steals my Game Boy, all because he claims that he deserves it. First, some background information. My dad has a nice collection of vintage consoles from when he was in his 20s. Since he didn't use the consoles that much, he gave me a few of those consoles. I mostly used the Game Boy Color because I loved playing Pokemon Crystal on it. This story took place about a few years ago. I was at a Dave & Buster's, which is an arcade I love to visit still to this day, when I saw a little boy snatching those cards that Dave & Buster uses for games, and I didn't really do anything about it since it wasn't my business and karma would catch up with him soon enough. Once I was done playing with the Game Boy, I was about to get up so I could get my card to play some of the games, but I was quickly stopped by some entitled Karen.
Excuse me, young man, stop right there.
I looked at her and said, hi, how can I help you? Like every Karen known in existence, she used her classic let me see your manager voice. She says,
yes, you can help me. Give my son your game guy toy thing you have.
I was kind of shocked when she said this, so all I could say was, excuse me? She looked at me and said,
you heard me, young man. Give my son the game guy.
At this point, I realized she was talking about my Game Boy. I said to her, and why should I do that? She said,
well, my son has behaved for the last month, and I'm trying to find the perfect gift for him.
The fact that she was calling it a game guy annoyed me beyond belief. So I said, sorry ma'am, but I'm not just giving my Game Boy away.
Oh, all right. How about 40?
I didn't know what she meant, so I asked, what do you mean by 40? She then says,
$40 for your game guy. How is this so hard to understand?
I look at her and say, lady, a Game Boy costs a little over $100. And even if it did cost $40, I'm not selling it to you. The Karen went back to her kid and started talking to him. I just ignored it, put my Game Boy in my back pocket, and went to go get my card. I got it without any issues. So I went over to play a game. And while I was playing, I felt a bit of shuffling in my back pocket and heard small footsteps walking away from me. Can you guess what happened? I think you can. My Game Boy was gone. I instantly knew who was responsible for this. I don't get mad easily, but since the Game Boy was my dad's original one, I was furious, especially since it has my Pokemon game still in the Game Boy. I stormed over to the Karen, who was walking out of the arcade with her son. I shouted for the lady, and this entitled Karen looked shocked because I found out my Game Boy was missing. How dumb do you have to be to not notice a whole console going missing from your pocket? She says,
ugh, it's you. What do you want?
I say quite plainly, your little spawn of Satan just stole my Game Boy.
How dare you say that about my little angel?
I demanded her to give it back to me right now, but she says,
no, he deserves this.
I tried to take it back from the kid, but the Karen intervened and slapped me hard. I was completely in shock. I could not believe that that just happened. I looked at her and asked her what was wrong with her and why on earth she would do that when I'm just trying to get my console back. She said,
well, too bad. Your game guy is ours now.
I said, are you kidding me right now? That was my dad's Game Boy. She says,
so what? It's old and junky. He wouldn't care anyways.
For your information, my dad loved to play on his Game Boy, and I'm pretty sure my dad would be flaming mad about this. I tried one last time to get the Game Boy away from this little demon child, and I actually got it, but only because this demon child's hands were very greasy. This entitled Karen then starts screaming at me, saying,
how dare you take that from him? I will be calling the police.
I just ignore them, hop on my bike, and head home. And if you thought that was it, well, you were terribly wrong. About an hour after I got home, I heard a knock on my door, door, and lo and behold, an officer was standing at my doorstep. And guess who was behind her? This entitled Karen and her demon child. The officer asked me if I had stolen an item, and it took tons of convincing for the officer to let me go. I had to show him my 5-year-old receipt for Pokemon Crystal. Once that was dealt with, the entitled Karen bothered me for a few days, but eventually gave up later. I still can't get over the fact that she called a Game Boy a game guy. Overall, I'm happy I got my Game Boy back, and I will hopefully never have to deal with that entitled Karen ever again. How terrible of a parent do you have to be to not only let your son steal something in plain sight, but also to then defend this child for taking this out of someone else's back pocket? The level of entitlement that goes into that is just absolutely ridiculous. As someone who played with a Game Boy back in the day, I would be incredibly upset if someone stole that from me. That has some serious sentimental value, and there's no way I would just let that go easily. So I don't blame this original poster for doing what it takes to get that console back, because Karens like this who actively try and steal from other people are probably some of the worst human beings you will ever deal with. My friend borrowed money from me a few months ago, and despite being asked several times, he has refused to pay me back. My friend borrowed money from me a few months ago when he had nothing. I even let him stay in our house because they really had nothing at the time. We were friends for 4 years now. We used to go together at different sidelines such as photo shoots. When he was almost getting out of his loan from other people, I told him he could pay me later because I still did not need the money. I advised him to invest in equipment first before doing anything because he recently sold his camera in order to pay the loans and buy another money-earning equipment. I was expecting that he would not pull off some grand show of buying expensive parts, but he still did instead of buying entry-level parts and then paying me. He then went through with his stupid decisions and proceeded on buying something that he did not need, such as a gaming mouse, a second monitor, weapon skins on a game, and high-quality speakers. I was disappointed, but I did not pay much attention because I thought he would pay me in time. So I gave him a deadline, which is a month away, because I will need the money before July. Now that the deadline is over, he then blabbered on about how he was rejected by this girl or how they had no money again and went on telling me his personal problems instead of paying me. I got angry and then he pulled off his habit of ignoring the messages of someone he doesn't want to interact with, which by the way is a typical scammer move. I feel like he was stepping on me and telling himself, oh, it's just my friend's money, I'll pay him next time. I really needed the money and I feel bad for cutting ties with him. I also heard that he can't pay his electric bills and still owes money to other people, some amounts being far greater than mine. What should I do? You should never give this person money ever again. They clearly took completely advantage of you. You learned a valuable lesson to not give money to a leech. And that's honestly all this guy was. He was a leech on your wallet, and you do not need that in your life. To be honest, you're probably never going to see that money again. And I personally do not blame you for wanting to try and cut him out of your life. I mean, this is a huge breach of trust. You were there for that friend when they needed someone to talk to. And unfortunately, it looks like they played you really badly and got money out of you and then said, see ya. So hopefully you learned a valuable lesson from this, and hopefully next time someone asks you for money, you think twice and make sure it's somebody who's actually going to pay you back. Today I messed up by being brutally honest with my girlfriend and causing my relationship to end. Let me start off by saying my girlfriend has major social anxiety problems and has met a lot of bad people in her life. She has had terrible exes and terrible friends. Before our relationship, we had been friends for several years. At some point, we liked each other and started dating. It was fine at first, but then she started to show me her insecure side. And by the way, she is extremely insecure. I promised her I would never leave her and always be by her side. However, in yesterday's argument, I asked her if she feels the same way about me, and she responds to me by saying, if there's a better person out there, then I'll go with them. Until that, it's you. To say I was shocked would be an understatement. I was completely taken aback by that. I questioned her heavily, and her response was, well, I know for a fact you'd do the same. I assured her that I wouldn't do that, but she wouldn't change her stance. Then the argument kept getting worse and worse, and she ended up bringing up stuff from the past, calling me a liar as well as dishonest, implying that I was a disloyal person. She then proceeded to break up with me on her own accord and act childish when I tried to repair the situation. After this, I kept texting her to calm her down and think about this, but she blocked me on everything. She then unblocked me an hour later and started talking again. She asked me to tell her the truth about everything, so I did. So I went ahead and confessed something that normally you would think think wouldn't be a big deal. I admitted that I found a certain celebrity attractive a long time ago and no more. She then got super upset and heartbroken at this fact and kept crying and crying. She said that since I liked this celebrity a long time ago, while I still liked her, that I was not loyal. She claimed that I would leave her if some attractive girl came up to me and asked me out. I responded to this by saying that this will never be the case and that I love her unconditionally. She then said she was gonna pass out and eventually did and went to sleep. I was desperate and frantic trying to fix the situation after that and texted her saying I'm sorry and explained how much I love her. And I said this just about every hour after she fell asleep. She woke up really early in the morning and simply replied with the letter K and has fallen asleep again. I'm honestly at a loss and I don't know how to fix this relationship. What should I do? I'm gonna be honest, your girlfriend sounds absolutely unhinged, and there is no way in the world I would put up with that for a second. Here's the thing with having a celebrity crush. It's not a real crush. That person will never meet you ever. So in my opinion, if you get upset over your significant other mentioning that a celebrity's attractive, then the problem's with you. They are literally commenting on someone that is unobtainable. They will never get with that person. And I personally think it's absolutely insane to try and extrapolate this type of confession about a celebrity as some kind of proof that your significant other is going to cheat on you. Because that's just not the case and it's just crazy. It sounds like you're trying to do everything to keep this relationship together, but in all honesty, I think you're going to be a lot better off without this lady because she's using her own social anxiety as well as her own insecurities to try and manipulate you. And genuinely, I think you can do a lot better than this. A girl I'm interested in dating keeps canceling our dates due to anxiety. What should I do? I met Sarah online and we clicked right away. Sarah is not her real name. We have a ton in common and we're both interested in each other. We went on a first date that went really well and she said she would be interested in a second date, but it's been a month and we've yet to go on that second date. 3 times now we've planned a date and she has backed out anywhere from a few hours to a day before. 2 times there were somewhat understandable excuses, but most recently she backed out without an excuse. When I asked if she simply was no longer interested, she reassured me that she was still interested. She said she was just overwhelmed due to some recent bad news, and she said her anxiety was getting the best of her. I have anxiety too, so I do understand the desire to cancel plans at times, but I'm also getting frustrated and feeling rejected. I have to initiate all of our text conversations and all of our plans. I even asked if she wanted me to stop asking her on dates, and she said no. She confirmed that she is still interested, but I'm feeling very conflicted. I know some will say I should just cut my losses and run, but I'm hesitant to let go of an otherwise great match. Does anyone have any advice for dating someone with this level of anxiety? Is there anything I can do to help her feel comfortable enough to actually follow through on our plans for a date? What should I do? I can totally understand where this original poster is coming from. You obviously found somebody who you really connect with and you really like, but Sarah keeps canceling and you don't want Sarah to cancel her plans. So now you're trying to figure out some kind of plan of like, hey, what do I do? How do I get her back on a date? I want to get to know her and spend time with her if she's willing. And from what she's saying, she says that she's willing, but her anxiety is just getting the best of her, which is understandable to an extent, but honestly, after a while, that's just going to hinder any future relationship. I know personally, I would be pretty frustrated after the 3rd time of trying to go out on a date with this girl, only for her to cancel for the 3rd time in a row. It is definitely disheartening to see that happen, and you never want that. So if it was me, I might have already moved on by this point, but it sounds like this guy wants to give it a try. So maybe you could just leave things up to her and see what happens. If she's in a good place and she feels like she has a good handle on her anxiety, maybe then she could reach out to you and try and get things going for another date. In the meantime, I don't think you should just wait around and see if she ever wants to come on a date with you again. Maybe look around and find someone else to go on a date with, but maybe just leave the ball in her court and see what happens. Either she's going to come around and say, hey, yes, I want to date you, so let's give this another try for the 4th time. Or she's never going to call you back, and that is honestly the best answer you would ever want. At that point, you'll know for a fact she's not interested in you and she was just being nice because of her anxiety. So hopefully you get that second date, and hopefully she doesn't cancel again for the 4th time. Today, I messed up by showing my daughter the movie Coraline without knowing what the plot is, and I think I may have traumatized her. This happened this weekend. My husband and I get to share credit on this one. We have a 5-year-old daughter, and we are always looking for movies we can enjoy watching with her. It's not easy to find something both tolerable for adults and engaging for kindergartners. We'll show her movies that we liked as kids, as well as some newer things. I always loved Tim Burton movies, and she really liked Nightmare Before Christmas. So when I saw a copy of Coraline at a yard sale, we thought it might be another one we could enjoy together. I'm not sure how familiar people are with these movies, but appearances are deceiving. Nightmare Before Christmas is an animated film about Halloween characters that try to take over Christmas celebrations. It's a PG movie and all the characters look scary, but are actually really nice. Coraline is a PG movie and the animation seemed really appealing. I got the sense from the cover that it was another movie with similar vibes to Nightmare Before Christmas, and I thought she might like it too. But oh man, I was wrong. It starts off okay with a young girl moving to a new apartment in an old house. Her parents are busy working and the neighbors are odd. She gets this doll with button eyes that looks like her and finds a secret door in the apartment. Next thing you know, she goes through the door and finds a parallel world. It's like hers, only better, and the people all have dolls with button eyes. It seems great, but it turns out that the other mother is an evil witch who traps children in her dimension. She convinces them to swap their eyes for buttons and then they can't leave. Once she traps them, she eats their souls. It was intense. Coraline tries to escape, but the other mother steals her parents. She has to try and get them back and find the eyes of the ghost children so they can be free. So as you can guess, my daughter watched this and freaked out. At first she was saying she was scared, and I tried to encourage her to keep watching. I did this a few times and told her that it's okay just to keep watching. I found that sometimes seeing the conclusion of something scary is better because it gives resolution to the fear. But not this one. We were halfway through and I'm genuinely feeling disturbed with the plot. I finally pull out my phone and read the full plot summary and realize that it's only going to get worse. I tell my husband that we absolutely messed up and we better shut it down now. My daughter starts having an anxiety attack and we turn it off and switch to something funny and familiar. Since then, she's had all sorts of nightmares about this movie and it's been relentless. We can only hope that we didn't mess up our kid by accident and try and look more into these movies in the future so we don't have a repeat of what just happened. That movie that's being described, by the way, is actually really scary. It is not meant for kids in the slightest, so yeah, I can completely understand how your daughter would be super scared of this. I remember seeing that movie for the first time and I was absolutely creeped out. And I don't get creeped out by movies, but that one messed with me a little bit. So yeah, you definitely want to make sure you get the right movie for your kids, because otherwise they might just be scarred for life, and that would not be good. Would you break up with your boyfriend because of their friends? I'm a 25-year-old female and I've been dating my boyfriend who's 33 years old for a few months now. We met at work, but we don't work for the same company. I'm a consultant that was based at his site for a few months. Due to lockdown and the intensity of the project, I ended up becoming friends with him as well as a few others from that site. They invited me to all of their work parties and even a going away weekend. Here's where the problems come in. I find his friends really disrespectful. One of his friends made fun of my hair and my boyfriend didn't even say anything. He claims that he didn't hear it and maybe he didn't. But his other friends, who are all in their 30s and 40s, have been alluding to our relationship for months. We do keep our relationship private because it hasn't been so long. His female friends ask if I'm just a friend with benefits, and the guys actually giggle when they see me. I get messages from his friends on social media saying that he's such a great guy and pushes us to be together, but it's not done in a caring way, although my boyfriend thinks it is. When we all hung out last year, they met some of my friends and his friends decided to invite my friends to a party, but not myself. He said it was just because they knew each other and he didn't say much on it. My friends actually never talked to them and they never got invited to these parties, and they only started talking to my friends more when they knew we were hanging out. When I used to turn up to parties, they would rarely talk to me and direct everything about me to my boyfriend. I think they're being very rude and they're acting like high school students. Now I have nothing to do with them, but I hear about them constantly talking about me and them alluding to some personal aspects of my relationship with my boyfriend that just makes me uncomfortable. I believe my boyfriend is being too passive with their behavior. He knows how uncomfortable they make me, and when he had a party Friday night, he texted me offering to leave when they showed up. However, I think I've lost care. If people he associates with are saying these things after 5 months and he still couldn't shut it down even after I've told him to do it multiple times, I'm honestly at a loss and I'm not sure if this is the right move or not. If your boyfriend's friends are making really inappropriate jokes or comments about you, especially if those comments are in front of your boyfriend who is hearing it all go down, then there is no reason your boyfriend can't pull them aside and be like, hey, you're making my girlfriend uncomfortable. You need to stop. It's as simple as that. And if they really are friends, then they will understand and back off. Otherwise, this is just straight up creepy and incredibly inappropriate. So from my perspective, I don't blame this lady for saying, hey, I think I'm done, because the boyfriend's being super passive passive and not being active in protecting his girlfriend. And in my eyes, that's more than enough reason for her to say, no thanks, I think I'm gonna look elsewhere. But what do you think? What would you do if you were in this situation? Leave a comment down below, we would love to hear it. Today, I messed up by taking my brother grocery shopping with a blank check. My brother works at a restaurant and has been eating their food for 10 years now. It has made him a bit chunky, as he would put it. He's trying to lose weight, has lots of college debt, and is still depressed about our parents dying early. So I thought I'd help him out. On a personal note, I'm very frugal and make less than him, but he's all I've got left in this world. He's a great kid who has never said a bad word about anybody, so I took him grocery shopping for healthy food for once. He mostly got a bunch of frozen and canned stuff to store for later because this wouldn't be a regular thing, as well as lots of fruit, veggies, deli meat, but for the first time probably in a while, no junk food. The total comes out to $104. On the side, I'm thinking, geez, save some for me. On the outside, I'm chill like, yeah, don't worry about it. I got you. I think you know where I'm going with this. My stomach is rumbling. My breakfast is a handful of peanuts. My lunch is almost my dinner, which was a sandwich from a restaurant. And today was supposed to be payday, but the manager is out and I don't have direct deposit. So I went hungry so that my brother could eat healthier, even though my paycheck is delayed. Honestly, you sound like a really good sibling, and I think you've earned the right to share whatever you just bought. It shows a lot of character that you would go hungry so that your brother could go and get some healthy food for once, which is a big thing. You want to be able to eat healthy and feel good about yourself, which is totally understandable. It sucks that you don't have direct deposit set up, which in my opinion, buddy, you need to set up direct deposit like yesterday. Direct deposit is like your best friend. That way you don't have to go to a bank or have to get anything filled out. You don't have to wait in a line to get your money. It's already in your account before you even get home. But other than that, this is a really sweet story, and I'm really happy that you have such a good bond with your family members where you are willing to go hungry so they can get some good food. Am I the jerk for kissing my best friend's girlfriend while he was in another state for his job? My best friend, we'll call him John, that's not his real name, has been dating his girlfriend for around half a year. His girlfriend never really talked, but I knew of her because she was dating John and he would talk about her all the time. I didn't really start talking to her and spending time with her until the past 2 months. John has been in another state for a job and he's coming back in August. He wanted us to spend time together since we never really talked before and he thought that we would get along. As it turns out, he was completely right. We started spending time together and immediately clicked. I've always thought that she was a very beautiful girl, but I could spend all day with her just talking and not get bored. Every time we hang out together, we spend 10 plus hours together, just exploring or talking. We do talk about John sometimes too, since we're both close to him, and she seems to like him a lot. She also told John about how well we get along, and he was apparently pretty happy about it. However, I'm definitely starting to fall for his girlfriend, and I think I already have. I love spending time with her, and I can't help but think about what could have been if I had only met her first or started dating her first. Well, a few nights ago, it was pretty late, and I didn't want her going home alone, so I invited her to my apartment where she could stay for a little bit. We were just talking and watching some stuff. At one point, we were sitting on the couch and talking about dating as well as my dating life. There was this moment where we were just looking at each other, and I don't know what came over me, but I just leaned in and kissed her. I've wanted to kiss her so many times when we were talking, but I've always stopped myself. I pulled back once I realized what I was doing, and she seemed completely shocked. I apologized profusely, and she said it was okay, but that she had to go. Now I have no idea what to do. John loves this girl, but I like her a lot too, and I think there's a chance that she might like me back. I don't know if I should tell John or if I should ask her not to tell him. I really value John as a friend, and I also don't want to lose him, but I've never felt this way about a girl ever. What should I do? This is absolutely unacceptable. You made a move on your best friend's girlfriend. You kissed her without her consent. You two are not dating. This is not some date that you had set up where you're like, oh, I'm gonna lean in for a kiss. Her looking shocked and saying, oh, I gotta go, is her nice way of saying, I can't believe you did that to me. I'm getting out of here. Like, that was completely wrong. And you want to try and tell her to not tell her boyfriend that you made a move on her. Like, that is so disrespectful and so violating. And the fact that you think you can try and steal this girl away from her boyfriend, who by the way is coming back from a job very soon, is just disgusting. You can't have it both ways. You can't make a move on his girlfriend and then expect to try and still be friends with John. If I was John, I would be super pissed off. And you can bet she's gonna say something to John. I wouldn't keep that quiet if I were her. If I was her, I would immediately go to my boyfriend and say, hey, I don't feel comfortable around your friend because he kissed me. Like, in my opinion, if John has any sense about him, you are definitely not going to have him as a friend anymore. And I really don't think you're going to see this girlfriend anymore either. She's even expressed in what you've described that she really, really likes John, but you just stepped all over that by making a move on her. Whether she likes you or not, she is off the market, and hoping that she'll choose you over your best friend is really just toxic in my opinion. All in all, unfortunately, I really think you're a bad friend in this situation, and you're about to lose everything in front of you. Because if you really valued your friendship with John, you would have never done this in the first place. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for getting mad at my parents for getting clothing as a birthday present? So my birthday is coming up, and it reminded me of this memory I had, and I was just wondering if I should have reacted the way that I did. So on my birthday, I always get 2 gifts, one from my dad and one from my mom. Back then, I was just 9 years old, so I did not think rationally. When I wake up, I'm always greeted with a happy birthday from both of my parents, as well as their gifts. Occasionally, I will get other presents from people working for my dad, but mostly it's just from them. So that morning on my birthday, the same thing happens, and my mom and dad say happy birthday, here are your gifts. They give my gifts, and I open the first gift that my dad gave me, and it was a little dinosaur toy. I can't really remember the specifics of it, but what I do remember is that I was really grateful for it. At the time, I was really obsessed with them. Then I opened the second gift, the one that my mom gave me, and it was a pair of pants. For starters, I'm very picky on what color I like for my pants, as well as how it looks when getting clothes. I'm a guy, so I don't really need to get a lot of clothing. I can deal with like 5 shirts and I'm good. But when I do get them, I'm really strict, and the pants I got felt bad, they looked weird, and the color was not a color that I liked. I tried to act happy so my mom would think that I liked it, and so that she would be happy, but I was young and I was bad at lying. My dad could immediately see that I was unhappy. I am not spoiled at all. I'm very grateful for any gifts that I get, even if they are bad gifts. One time, I got a baseball as a present from a friend, and that's it. And I used it a lot, as I always try to use my gifts, because that is what it is for. People give it to me so I can use it. It's not just to look at. But I felt the pants were over the top. My dad apologized and said that he tried to reason with my mom, all the while the pants were not even valuable. It was like $12 max. I could understand why my mom wanted to get it for me, as my mom grew up in a poor part of Indonesia, and for her, she would be lucky to get 2 secondhand shirts for her birthday, even if it was too small or too big. But I'm not sure why she thought I would react the same. We are in no way in need of money, and I go to a good school at around $35,000 per year. This is above average where I stay. The whole day I was crying my eyes out, and I only stopped because my dad said we were going to Target for me to pick out anything I wanted that is not too expensive to replace what my mom gave me. And after what happened, they never made that same mistake again. I don't know if I was the jerk or overreacting to getting 1 pair of pants and making my mom sad that I hated her gift. So what do you think? Am I the jerk? This is probably the first one that I can confidently say, yes, original poster in question, you were a very big jerk as a 9-year-old. You should have been grateful that your parents even got you anything in the first place for your birthday. I have friends who grew up with absolutely nothing, so they got nothing for their birthday, except for a pat on the back. Sometimes they wouldn't even get that. And the fact that you implied that this is a mistake that they'll never make again is really, really rude. Like, that is like Karen status rude. And I'm personally very surprised that you could be that entitled. And I'm genuinely not trying to be mean or anything like that, but the behavior that you described is completely inappropriate and very, very rude, especially towards your parents. And you said it yourself. Your mom grew up poor, so she thought that this would be a good gift for you. It doesn't matter if you don't like the color of the pants. You should have accepted it and said, yes, I'm all for it. So to the original poster, I'm really sorry, but in this instance, when you were a kid, yes, you were the jerk. But hopefully you've grown up since then and are now appreciative of the gifts that your parents give you. My entitled family don't like my boyfriend for all of the wrong reasons. So this all happened in July of 2021, but I am just now finding out about it. Exactly 1 year ago, my boyfriend of 2 years got caught on fire. His leg was burned badly, and he has permanent scars from his left foot all the way up to his right ear. He spent a few days in the hospital and was discharged, but he couldn't work or drive for a month and had difficulty walking by himself. 15 days after his burn was my cousin's graduation party that we were both invited to, and my boyfriend was insistent that we should show up because we said we would go. I talked to my cousin and his parents parents and explained the situation and that we can't stay for long due to my boyfriend's condition. They understood and were happy that we decided to show up despite everything. So the day of the graduation party arrives and I go for a more dressy look because I know my cousin and his family are kind of a bunch of snobs. My boyfriend wants to dress up too, seeing as this is the first time he would meet my extended family, but the clothes are too tight on his body and causes him to experience excessive pain. So I encourage him to wear something casual, saying my family will understand. I drive and we show up. Straight up, my boyfriend doesn't look the best. He's in baggy clothing that shows his bandages. His normally long blonde hair is singed and matted because he hadn't washed it in a week, all because the water as well as the burns don't really mix together and cause a lot of pain. My boyfriend limps around with me at his side, meeting everyone and making small talk. We eat food, we congratulate my cousin, and after an hour or so, we go. After such a short encounter, I didn't expect my family to immediately like him. I asked around, and everyone said they don't know him well enough to form any kind of opinion about him, which is fair. However, I recently learned through my mom that this was not the case. Most of my extended family hated my boyfriend, and for the stupidest reasons possible. They didn't like that he had long hair or that he works a blue-collar job, and even that he didn't show up in fancy clothes. They are disappointed that I chose to date someone like him. Some of my aunts even started planning a trip to take me to Italy so I can meet foreign boys in hopes of me cheating on my boyfriend. I would have understood if they didn't like him because he seemed like a jerk or any other good reason, but knowing what I know now makes me rethink everything I know about them, and now I see just how entitled they've always been. Your extended family are absolute jerks, and you are 100% right. Your family is full of a bunch of snobs, and this just proves it. Your boyfriend showed up to your cousin's graduation party after experiencing an intense burn across his body. That, I can only imagine, is an excruciating experience. He showed up to try and be supportive, but they just completely throw trash at him. I honestly wouldn't want anything to do with my extended family if they said that about my significant other, especially if my significant other didn't do anything wrong. This is a really terrible situation, and honestly, I don't blame you if you cut off that side of your family and choose to have very little to do with them, because if I was in your shoes, I definitely would do that. My fiance's parents are making my life a living nightmare, and I'm not sure what to do. I am a 31-year-old male, and I am currently living with my fiance at her parents' house. I have had an ongoing claim with SSI since 2017. That's a Social Security Administration, and I am still fighting them on it. My fiance supports us alone financially, so as a show of appreciation, I have tried to make her home life as relaxing as possible in any way I can, and as much as my condition allows. Her family has despised me from day one. They can't stand the fact that I'm not working and simply refuse to accept my plethora of reasons, as well as the fact that giving up my SSI case would lose me tens of thousands of dollars in back pay at this point. This is literally the only excuse they have ever needed to hate me with a passion, and I've never given them any other reasons unless very much justified. So we moved in with them in February, and from the second I stepped foot in this house, they continued to make me feel unwelcome and subservient to them in any way they possibly could. In spite of the fact that they are demanding I pay them $200 out of my food stamps every month, which is not only illegal, but is also something I'm given because I need it to survive, they also demand that I act as their housemaid with no pay, all while there are 5 other people living in this house. They have never outright stated that they expect me to do the majority of the work around the house, but it is very much implied when they say stuff like, "We want these things that nobody else is willing to do done right now." They have gone to such petty lengths as to set a timer on the Wi-Fi to incentivize me to go even more above and beyond for them than I already have been, blaming my love for gaming for why my sleeping habits are garbage, completely ignoring the fact that they have been told numerous times about many of my conditions, including a minor form of insomnia. They had a family reunion going on around 2 weeks ago, and I asked my fiance to have them shut the timer off because I struggle very badly to sleep when she is not with me, and I wasn't particularly looking forward to no form of human contact for hours on end. They agreed, but with an ultimatum. If I didn't clean the mess that they left for me and then refrain from destroying the house, then the timer was going back on. So I buried my pride and my dignity, and I did what was demanded of me as I had for the past 3 months. I cleaned this house just about spotless. The timer stayed off for a total of 3 days after they returned. My birthday rolls around and it's not a great day. I received a denial letter from SSI that day. I had been talked to like the lowest scum of the earth by my fiance's teenage stepsister all week, and my medical card still hadn't arrived from moving across states, so I couldn't make any appointments yet. On top of that, my fiance's stepbrother was made priority over myself when his birthday wasn't for another couple of days. So instead of my cake being made, after she bothered me to pick one out of her cookbook, his peach cobbler was made instead. As a side note, my birthday is on the 27th of June, and my cake still hasn't been made, adding further to the constant feeling of insignificance and worthlessness that I have to endure from how I'm treated by everyone here, including my fiance. I needed to take some time to be alone and not worry about anything but my mental health. So I took the next 2 days off from doing any kind of work. I stayed up in my room, I gamed from the time I woke up until I went to bed, and I just tried to force myself into a healthier mental state. I figured 2 days shouldn't be a problem. Nobody else but the terrible teenagers does anything around here, and she does the absolute bare minimum and will take entire weeks off from cleaning anything. I always pick up the slack because, again, that's the expectation. And if I don't, I get punished like a child over it and have privileges taken away. Another side note, the internet having a timer only affected me. Everyone else had active phones with unlimited data and hotspot, while my phone has been deactivated for the past 9 or so months to try and save money. Well, as I should have expected, nobody else is willing to pick up the slack like I am. What I could not have expected was that the house went to absolute garbage. And like totally rational and logical people, the conclusion that my fiance's parents came to was that I was the problem because I don't deserve any breaks like everyone else gets. And my 2 days off from cleaning, while also not contributing to any messes whatsoever, as I didn't even leave my room to eat the entire time during those couple of days, was what apparently caused the house to become an absolute garbage dump. Before, they set the timer between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. every day. But guess what they did this time? The only hours that the Wi-Fi was now accessible was between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. Conveniently the time my fiance's parents got off work till the time they go to bed. And again, this is only detrimental to me because I am the only one without an active phone, unlimited data, as well as a hotspot. They are aware of this, and this was a direct slap in my face for daring to need a few mental health days for myself. In response, my fiance reactivated my phone with all the benefits I needed to avoid them having anything to hold over my head anymore. I've completely stopped doing any extraneous cleaning, only worrying about myself and any mess I might make. And I don't interact with my fiance's father, the step monster, or any of those terrible stepchildren unless absolutely necessary. I very rarely eat when everyone else does, choosing to wait until her parents go to bed and then ignoring her sister while I have a meal because they no longer have any power over me, nor can they complain about my not cleaning the house since I'm very particular about not leaving any trace when I do eat or whatever. They have taken to manufacturing issues to have with me anyways. This morning I was playing a game and I performed a feat that I was hyped about. I popped off a little, nothing crazy, but I should have known better because anytime my fiance's stepmom hears me in any way, shape, or form in the morning, she throws a tantrum over it. She uses some BS excuse that she can't stand the noise first thing in the morning. It's not the first time she's fabricated this issue to have with me, so typically I am as quiet as possible if I'm up that early. Anyway, my fiance goes down to smoke and say good morning, as we heard her stepmom get up several minutes prior to my pop-off. She comes back and informs me that her stepmom was inquiring as to what all the yelling was about. My fiance told her there wasn't anything, but I was gaming and got a bit excited, but that I wasn't much louder than when I normally speak. So I go down and say good morning out of courtesy, because despite the resentment I feel towards the woman, I have a very strict personal virtues in regards to respect and courtesy. And even when I am not shown an ounce of either, I will always show show courtesy and respect to everyone. She responds with,
"Morning."
I then apologize that she could hear me a few minutes ago, and this grown woman lost her mind. She starts going off about how it's kind of rude and inconsiderate to make a bunch of noise when people who work are trying to sleep. Okay, jab at the fact that I can't currently work. Petty, ignorant, but whatever. But mentioning rude and inconsiderate, the utter irony. Considering just 4 days ago, while I was sleeping, they blasted their music from the stereo at max volume, loud enough that I could hear every word with full clarity up the stairs around 2 corners and behind a closed door. Because they had to clean since they disrespected me, you know, the house slave, one too many times. And they couldn't just stand the thought of me peacefully snoozing while they had to do it. God forbid lift a finger to do anything beyond what they earn a wage to do. I have gone far out of my way to be far more considerate and respectful to everyone around here than they deserve. And she has the audacity to call me rude and inconsiderate? So, assuming she was trying to blame me for my fiance still being awake at 4 in the morning, something she has accused me for in the past, I inform her that my fiance wasn't even attempting to get sleep yet. She pivots hard.
"She isn't the only one who has to work. These walls are paper thin, and my room is directly below yours."
Both of these statements, by the way, are complete lies. But this is just one of many examples of how these people treat me so poorly. It goes without saying, I think, but these people lack any sense of self-awareness, are self-centered, as well as ignorant. And I could not be any happier that my fiance just got a very significant raise that will help us get out of there as soon as possible. This is a rough story overall, because I can only imagine being stuck in that kind of situation. It sounds like these in-laws are absolutely horrendous to deal with. They are not kind, they're not nice, and it sounds like they haven't even tried to welcome you into their home. And the fact that they tried to place restrictions on your internet access is just crazy to me. Like, what rational adult is going to try and do that to another rational adult? And I really find it disturbing that they are disrespecting the fact that you have disabilities that are preventing you from working on a daily basis. And here's a fun fact, some disabilities are invisible. You can't see them. Like, you don't have to be stuck in a wheelchair or in a walker or use a cane to be classified as having a disability. There's a lot more nuance to it than just that. So I really feel bad for this guy's situation, and hopefully this gets worked out, because the way you're being treated in this house is just really disrespectful. I can see where the family's coming from, where they want you to work and have a job, and I honestly think that having that disability status is probably going to be the only thing that proves to them that, hey, I can't actually work. So I honestly wish you the best of luck, and hopefully things work out for you and your fiance. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.